All right, good evening, everybody. We are halfway there, and by the end of tonight, if all goes well, assuming time doesn't stop moving, assuming Mike Pence doesn't throw off the progress of time as we understand it, we will be 3/4 of the way done with this depraved and delusional, despicable, diabolical Republican National Convention after tonight. So it is going to be a long night. I'm going to go through the schedule momentarily. Mike Pence is sort of like the headliner, and I don't know if he's going to have to be chaperoned. As many of you know, Mike Pence, there's something weird going on about when he's allowed to be around women and, all this different weird stuff. I don't know. But we're going to find out about all of it very, very soon. In fact, let's do that now. Headlining today is Mike Pence, who will formally accept his renomination. His wife, Karen Pence, will speak. She's just horrible. We're going to hear from Marsha Blackburn, who's terrible. Dee Byrne, I don't know who that is. Madison Cawthorn, I am vaguely familiar with. Kellyanne Conway, who, of course, is quitting at the end of the month, we're going to hear from. Dan Crenshaw, who is horrible, is going to be speaking. Scott Dane, I don't know. Logger and trucker of Minnesota. Okay. Senator Joni Ernst is an absolute lunatic. We're going to hear from her, Richard Grenell, Clarence Henderson, Keith Kellogg, Michael McHale, Kristi Noem, I'm familiar with, Burgess Owens. Elise Stefanik is a bomb-throwing congresswoman. Lara Trump, continuing the nepotism, and then Lee Zeldin, a Republican congressman from New York. So that's on schedule for today, along with probably a bunch of propaganda. We also are going to be monitoring very closely. We're going to be watching Trump's Twitter like the Zapruder film to see what we see there. And then I will also be live tweeting throughout. You can follow me on Twitter at dpacman. And by the way, I'm going to be talking about this tomorrow very, very precisely. As you can see, the national polling has tightened in the last 2 months, where now Biden and Trump are 7 points apart. Earlier, I posted that if you look back at August 27th of 2016, which is exactly, so I'm using this on the show tomorrow, which is why I did August 27th. Clinton and Trump were only, as you can see, 6.3 points apart 4 years ago today. The difference in August 27 numbers from 2016 to now is 0.7 points. And there have been people who take to emailing me whenever I say, hey, guys, Biden can win. Hey, guys, assume nothing. Everybody's got it. People say, David, you're just gaslighting, pretending it's closer than it is to get people to vote. It's like, first of all, telling people that until the votes are counted, the polls mean nothing is not gaslighting. That's number one. So please put that argument in the trash. But number two, the difference between right now and where we were 4 years ago is 0.7 points nationally. Now, you can say, well, the swing states are more in Biden's favor, whatever. We didn't have the post office involved in a political way in 2016. We didn't have, you guys understand. So I'm assuming I don't have to explain it to you guys. So we're going to deal with that and talk about that tomorrow. So don't miss tomorrow's podcast and, all of that different stuff. We are continuing to have the number of Twitch subscribers up on the screen. People seem to like yesterday, and some people wrote to me that they liked being able to sign up and see the number tick up automatically. So we're going to keep that up on the screen. It's working beautifully. We also, again, are going with a goal of 56 website members and patrons today. Why? Because that's what we got on Monday. We fell short of that yesterday. Let's just see if we can do 56. Why not? There's really no particular science to the numbers. Okay. I do want to look at a few super chats that are coming in. Maybe we'll start there. And yesterday, the super chats were pouring in very, very powerfully. Chakaseki says, I am deeply afraid of what Lovecraftian horrors await us tonight. Well said. Will Trump finally reveal that he is the blind idiot god Azathoth? That I doubt. Jackie Tupper has subscribed. Our friend Azim Abu Khalil says, has Trump successfully sabotaged the election by removing copious sorting machines from swing states? How do we counter this flagrant corruption? You guys know how we counter it. Everybody must vote, no matter what. Everybody must vote. If we need to crawl over broken glass, we do it. Few other YouTube subscribers coming in. Unknown Prodigy says, you forgot dumb, disgraceful, dreadful, and douchey. Yes, tonight will be a despicable, depraved, and diabolical, dumb, disgraceful, dreadful, and douchey Republican National Convention. JR says, who have we... Oh, I'm going to have to mute. Every time I go live, people start going absolutely crazy, texting me about what's going to happen tonight. So I apologize for that. JR says, who have we become as people, as a country? When does enough actually become enough? How dark does insanity have to look before enough people come to their senses and refuse to remain stupid? Where is reason hiding? It's not hiding at the RNC. That I can tell you with certainty. Matt Bond says, as Elvis said, help me make it through the night. Yeah, it's some people in the chat are noticing that I'm basically sick of this BS convention. You're right. I mean, it's despicable. It really is. Ryan McKnight says, thank you for your hard work. I am a former Republican turned slightly left of center. You are my favorite progressive voice because you seem to be the most objective and introspective. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. Have you marched in any BLM protests? No, I talked about this. I mean, at the time when they were going on in Boston, the pandemic was fully raging. As many of you know, I agree with many of the broader goals of BLM, but not with some of the particulars of the organization. So I'm doing my activism through the show. I'm influencing far more people than adding one more protester to BLM protests would add. And I was not particularly interested in being around large crowds during the height of the pandemic. Let's see. Timon Mansell says, I hate all this violence that's going on in Wisconsin. Makes me sad that we cannot work it out with words. I agree. Zesty African asks whether I miss Ralph Nader. I interviewed him not long ago. I don't particularly miss him. The 90s rapper says, I know you don't get to pick the ads that run on your channel, but I can only watch the same Epoch Times ad so many times before I want to barf. I apologize for that, although I have nothing to do with it. And Mark Raybold says, I forget, is the RNC theme tonight the 180,000 COVID deaths theme or militia murdering people in the streets theme? It's neither. It's Donald Trump has been the best for black people other than maybe Abe Lincoln. That's the theme we are anticipating tonight. Let me say thank you to some people on Twitch who have signed up. Scardor has raided with a party of 141 people. Welcome, everybody, and come on in. JP the Beast Already Exists is supporting. And Bajango 15 has subscribed with Prime and says, Pac-Man, I love you. Also, thanks to Ben's Tater Tots for subscribing with Prime. You are subscriber 1,360. Some people asking whether the 15th anniversary coupon code still works on my website. It does, but I'm not making a big deal out of it, but it does. We celebrated the 15th anniversary of the David Pakman Show on Sunday. It turns out I was wrong by 6 days. The real anniversary was August 16th. I just got the date wrong. It's crazy, but I got the date wrong. But on August 23rd, we celebrated it, and there is a coupon code 15-year. That's 15 year. It'll work at joinpacman.com. I'm not promoting it. It was supposed to be a one-day thing, but it still works. You could use it at joinpacman.com if you understand. And I will, of course, thank you. And this blue bar that is sadly empty at 0 right now will start to fill up if we're lucky. Looks like the RNC is not going to start at all early today. The last couple of nights, they've had some video presentations that started a little early, but we are getting very close at the bottom of the hour. Let's see here. Super chats continue to pour in violently. Let's see here. Master 101 says, should Dems moderate their position on abortion? No, the country is more in favor of abortion today than ever since Roe v. Wade. So it would not make sense for Democrats to do that. The position is more than moderate enough. Brian Holiday says NBA players boycotting playing in the playoff game after police shooting of Jacob Blake. What are your thoughts? I think it's powerful. I mean, there's people on the right who are saying, oh, nobody was watching the NBA anyway. All right, well, then just you weren't watching and you're still not watching. But I do think it's actually a pretty powerful message. Patrick Asher says opinions on the shooting in Wisconsin. We talked about it on the bonus show today, and I'm going to have a bigger piece about it tomorrow. So obviously, I'm sure my thoughts are what is obvious to many, but I will be talking about it in detail tomorrow. We continue to have this sort of weird, jagged video. I don't know how else to describe it from the official RNC feed. So we're going to kick over to a different feed. We will keep closed captioning on, and we're mostly going to carry the big speeches. And then I want to be hearing from you guys via Super Chat and elsewhere. But some of this propaganda material we didn't cover yesterday. Nobody seemed to miss it. Let me put it that way. Thanks to Twilight Sentinel, Jules, and Jules for subscribing with Twitch Prime. The dude says David may seem objective, but from the standpoint of sleeper agents, let us not forget he is technically Asian and therefore a Chinese plant. No, I am Asian. I'm Asian Hispanic, but I'm not Chinese. Listen, guys, the entire Asian thing was not a joke. It was related to Ashkenazi Jews being a Levantine population. That's it. A couple of people wrote to me. They thought I was telling some kind of crass joke it's not a joke. Just Google it. It's actually super interesting. Andrew Moore says, I'm so proud of the NBA. We can't accept the normalization of these atrocities anymore. Agreed. Very much agreed. Jacob Ratner asks, what do you think of the situation in Wisconsin? I will deal with that tomorrow. By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday, Jacob. Very much appreciate your support over the last period of time. Hope you have a great birthday. Carol and Richie have signed up. Michael says, love your show. Thank you. Charlie says, yo, D. Pacman, months ago I heard some David Pacman Show song. How can I hear this amazing track again? I might be able to play it for you, actually. Let me see if we have it. If I have it in an easy place. I actually don't know where it is. I just don't know exactly where it is. I would play it for you if I had it. Songs. No, I'm looking on our Dropbox. You'd think it'd be under... Would it be under memes and funny pictures? It's not, though. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Rabbi Arich Sparrow is speaking today. We are not taking the religious components. As many of you know, I'm culturally and ethnically Jewish. I have no problem with rabbis in principle, but I just believe that politics and religion should be separate in the United States. So we're not taking the religious elements, but you don't need to email me and tell me that I'm being hostile to Christianity or anything. This guy's certainly not a Christian, and we can all relax about that. We're just not going to do that right now. Connor Brenner says, I don't know if I'll be able to get through Crenshaw. He makes me want to scream at my screen like a buffoon. Good luck, LOL. Tonight's going to be tough. I'm not going to lie, guys. It's going to be tough. Lots of Jello says, would love if you had a long form discussion with Stephen Destiny Bonnell II sometime soon. All right. He's in Europe right now, so I can't imagine he's streaming this late, right? Maybe he is. Nicholas Silva says, what do you think of the defense from the right? What do you think the defense from the right will be about the right-wing militia conspiring with the police? I don't know yet. I want to put my thoughts together about that before I say too much more about it. A few people I do want to thank, though. Jack Paris is new member number 1 tonight at joinpacman.com, kicking us off. Carissa Staley is new member number 2. Gabriel Mullins is number 3. Jared Plasek is number 4. And Thomas De La Cerda is number 5. Kicking us off at joinpacman.com. Always much appreciated. Thanks to... I thanked Twilight already. Chakaseki says via Super Chat, should we expect a good people on both sides dog whistle from the mangy lout in chief supporting Kyle Rittenhouse and his shooting of protesters, I'm not expecting it, but I certainly wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, that's the way I would put it. Donna Williams asks, what are my thoughts about Trump using the White House as a prop? Immoral and possibly illegal. Those are my thoughts. Super Guy says David's bonus show is lit. Yeah, one of the membership benefits, if you sign up on my website, is we do like an extra show every day just for members. And over the weekend, I had firefighters visit my house at 4 a.m. and I tell the story on the Monday bonus show. Twilight Sentinel, if I didn't thank you, I am thanking you again. Okay? Apologies for that. I think I've now thanked you twice, maybe even 3 times. But you know what? You tricked me. You tricked me. Emily Maiden says, watching this horror show from Europe in the middle of the night. Keep up the great coverage. Can't watch and stay sane without you. Thanks, Emily. I appreciate that. Cooper McCartney says, I'm from Canada. The Electoral College confuses me. What's your opinion? I'm not confused by it. I'm very much familiar with it. But certainly it's confusing in terms of whether it's a logical system. But I'm certainly not confused about how it works. Paul Clark says, do you still speak to Lewis? Yes, it's Louis. Much love to him. Yes, I speak to Lewis regularly. Saw him about 10 days ago. We are at the requisite point in the evening where people ask if I ever look at Twitch chat. I do. Let's get to our first speaker.
I'm Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota.
Let's get some volume.
I'm here tonight because I believe America is an exceptional nation, founded on 3 principles: equality, freedom, and opportunity. But today, our founding principles are under attack. This year, the choice for Americans is between a man who values these ideals and all that can be built because of them, and a man who isn't guided by these ideals, and coincidentally, has built nothing. Remember, America's battle for independence and fight for self-governance was something that had never been done before. Men of great intellect and wisdom, like James Madison, the father of our Constitution, hoped our constitutional republic would last for ages, mitigate the problems that would naturally arise from political factions, and prevent tyranny. Madison also authored much of the Bill of Rights because he understood the natural tendency of government to increasingly encroach on the people's consent, and thus our freedom. He urged his colleagues to adopt these amendments to enshrine in our Constitution the ideals laid out in the Declaration of Independence, that all power comes from the people, that the government is created and ought to be exercised for the benefit of the people. Our Constitution guarantees the right to speak, to assemble, and to worship, the right to arm ourselves as a counterbalance to a standing army, and the right to a fair and equitable criminal justice system. We must fight to protect these foundational rights from government interference and indifference. America is unique in the world. Government's power at all levels is limited to the confines of our Constitution, which protects our God-given liberties and civil rights. We are not and will not be the subjects of an elite class of so-called experts. We, the people...
This speech is interesting because it's a generic small government conservatism type speech. It just has nothing to do with Trump or why anybody would vote for him to be president for 4 more years.
Than anybody. When he was just 28 years old, Honest Abe saw wild and furious passions worse than savage mops, he said, taking the place of reasoned judgment. He was alarmed by the increasing disregard for the rule of law throughout the country. He was concerned for the people that had seen their property destroyed, their families attacked, and their lives threatened or even taken away. These good people were becoming tired of and disgusted with a government that offered them no protection. Sound familiar? It took 244 years to build this great nation, flaws and all. But we stand to lose it in a tiny fraction of that time if we continue down the path taken by the Democrats and their radical supporters.
Remember, by every empirical measure, the country does better under Democratic presidents. We can evaluate why or whether we should care, but that's the facts.
The violence is rampant. There's looting, chaos, destruction, and murder.
Yeah, and Trump is president, so how would another 4 years stop that?
The people that can't, good, hardworking Americans, are left to fend for themselves. The Republican Party's commitment to individual rights and self-government is as necessary today as it was in 1860 when we won our first presidential election. Our party respects individuals based on who they are. We don't divide people based on their beliefs or their roots. We don't shun people who think for themselves. We respect everyone equally under the Constitution, and we treat them as Martin Luther King Jr. wished, according to the content of their character, not the color of their skin. In just 4 years, President Trump has lifted people of all races and backgrounds out of poverty. He shrunk government. He put money back into the pockets of hardworking, ordinary Americans. He has advanced religious liberty. He protected the Second Amendment. You can look back 50 years. You won't find anyone that has surpassed President Trump's success on these 4 issues alone. History chooses its heroes for the time in which they live. At our founding, Madison was one of the chosen. When the nation's...
Is she saying Trump is like Madison?
It was Lincoln's turn.
Lincoln, oh my God.
Thanks to these men, America is a land of hope. Their examples have been repeated in countless ways by simple Americans following their conscience. But there is another American hero to be recognized.
Not Trump, right?
And that is the common American.
Oh.
This is who President Trump is fighting for. He's fighting for you.
An abrupt end to a delusional speech having no connection to Donald Trump. Notice it was mostly about Abe Lincoln. And then at the end, she's like, and Trump is the modern good guy that's fighting for everybody. Okay. I think we're going to not carry this one. This is the logging executive. I don't know if people necessarily want to hear from a logging executive right now. But I do want to get to a few of the other super chats that are coming in. I'm going to do the best I can to get to most of them. Jamie says an ad popped up on my phone inviting me to become Canadian. I'm tempted. David, thank you for covering this so I don't have to watch alone. Semi-truck driver asks if I've ever voted for a Republican. I don't think so. I don't think so. Nicole says backing off semi-truck driver and why? Backing off semi-truck driver and why? Oh my God. I don't know what's going on there. Aaron Dadas asks if the Kristi Noem speech would win over a single vote. Probably. It'll probably win a vote and lose a vote. I don't know. Connor Brenner says, remember, this is the governor that thought her anti-meth campaign entitled Meth, We're On It was a good idea. Could that possibly be true? She also entertained conversation with Trump about him ending up on Mount Rushmore. I thought that was debunked. Mazzy Z says, tell that to your native residents, Kristi. You don't treat them equally. Michael Anton Sue says, like your show and TYT, Tom Hartman, Stephanie Miller Show, and many others that are progressive, all great people. Tom was on with me last week. I interviewed him. Bay Photo says, wonder if she brought biker Ronavirus with her. I read that the people who were going to be at Mike Pence's speech today will not be tested for coronavirus. That's what was announced today. Thanks to Concubar for subscribing with Twitch Prime, and Invisible Sith, who is subscriber 1,366 over on Twitch, which I appreciate. A Drumpf Twitler says, David, talk me off the ledge and out of rehab. I think Trump ekes out a win. Effective enough gaslighting and voter suppression. I can't tell you you're wrong, and that's why we all have to vote. C asks my opinion of DC statehood. I favor it. Now let's go to bomb thrower Marsha Blackburn.
I'm U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. America is a nation of heroes. In times of difficulty, we're reminded that they're all around us. They're in the line with us at the grocery store, in the pew with us at church. They're the regular Americans who step up to volunteer and serve when we need them most. They've stood at the forefront throughout this pandemic. The emergency room nurses who go back shift after shift. the medical researchers developing a vaccine and therapies to combat.
Let me give you guys a little heuristic to apply. When you see a speech like this with stuff nobody could disagree with, we should respect and laud the healthcare workers. Remember, it's an RNC. Ask yourself the question, does this imply I should vote for Trump? Because then you realize nothing that she's saying has anything to do with voting for Donald Trump.
Another kind of hero. The kind Democrats don't recognize because they don't fit into their narrative. I'm talking about the heroes of our law enforcement and armed services. Leftists try to turn them into villains. They want to cancel them. But I'm here to tell you, these heroes can't be
Weird
canceled.
Camera framing.
Tennessee is full of them. After all, we're the volunteer state. My dad served in the Army in World War II. When he came home, he put on another uniform and for 30 years volunteered to help our underfunded Sheriff's Department. I'm reminded of him whenever I see compassion and selflessness in others. When I see law enforcement officers put their lives on the line every single day to keep our communities safe, in spite of the hatred thrown at them. When I see the heroes who volunteer to serve our country, putting their lives on the line for our freedom. Many of these heroes call Tennessee home, and we could not be more proud of the brave men and women of the 101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell. The common thread between them is a deep-seated desire to serve a cause larger than themselves. They don't believe their country owes them anything. They believe they owe their country and their fellow man. As hard as Democrats try, they can't cancel our heroes. They can't contest their bravery, and they can't dismiss the powerful sense of service that lives deep in their souls. So, they tried to defund them, our military, our police, even ICE, to take away their tools to keep us safe. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and their radical allies try to destroy these heroes because if they're...
What exactly is radical about the Biden-Harris policy, by the way? Radical.
...can control us. They close our churches, but keep the liquor stores and abortion clinics open. They say we can't gather in community groups, but encourage protest, riots, and looting in the streets. If the Democrats had their way, they would keep you locked in your house until you become dependent on the government for everything. That sounds a lot like communist China to me. Maybe that's why Joe Biden is so soft on them. Why Nancy Pelosi says that China would prefer Joe Biden. Yep, I bet they would. But President Trump has stood up for our heroes every day. He stood by our law enforcement, our military, and the freedoms we hold dear. He's made good on his promise to put America first. And I hope you will stand with me as we send him back for 4 more years with a clear message to the Democrats.
It is really interesting how today's speeches talk about re-electing Trump sort of as an afterthought at the very end of the speech with no real case for the re-election. Oh, this one's over. Okay, here's Dan Crenshaw.
8 years ago in the fields of Helmand Province, Afghanistan, a close friend and teammate laid down cover fire against Taliban insurgents so that I could walk, blind and bloodied, to the medevac helicopter and survive. But he didn't. Dave Worson was killed 2 months later. He died a hero to this great country. Here's the truth about America. We are a country of heroes. I believe that, so should you. We are a people with a common set of ideals conceived in liberty. People that has sacrificed time and again for our freedom and the freedom of others. That's something no other country ever, anywhere, can claim. Since 9/11, I've seen America's heroes up close. Some of them saved my life. Some of them saved many others' lives. Many of them never made it home. These heroes acted as if the whole struggle depended on them alone, as if any weakness on their part would be a reflection of the whole nation. That's called duty. And America has a long history of it. Our enemies fear us because Americans fight for good, and we know it. It gives us strength. When our heroes are trusted and equipped, then freedom prevails. The defeat of ISIS was the result of America believing in our heroes.
I didn't think we had defeated them yet.
Rebuilding our military so we'd have what we needed to finish the mission. The cowering of the Iranian regime and the restoration of the deterrence once lost is the result of America believing in her own might again. But America's heroism isn't relegated to the battlefield. Every single day we see them if you just know where to look. It's the nurse who volunteers for back-to-back shifts caring for COVID patients because she feels that's her duty. It's the parent who will relearn algebra because there's no way they're letting their kid fall behind while schools are closed. And it's the cop that gets spit on one day and will save a child's life the next. America is the country where the young military wife with 2 young children answers the unexpected knock at the door, looks the man in uniform in the eye, and even as her whole world comes crashing down, she stands up straight, she holds back tears, and takes care of her family, because she must. This is what heroism looks like. It's who we are, nation of heroes. And we need you now more than ever. We need to remind ourselves what heroism really is. Heroism is self-sacrifice. It's not moralizing and lecturing over others when they disagree. Heroism is grace, not perpetual outrage. Heroism is rebuilding our communities, not destroying them. Heroism is renewing faith in the symbols that unite us, not tearing them down. You see, America is a fabric. It's woven from the threads of history's best stories, best attributes, and greatest ideas. The American spirit reflects the oldest and most important virtues: self-sacrifice, courage, tolerance, love of country, grace, and passion for human achievement. We can decide right now that American greatness will not be rejected nor squandered. As the American founding was grounded in individual liberty, so will be our future. But if we are to rediscover our strength, then it must be an endeavor undertaken by each and every one of us. We must become the heroes that we so admire. America was built by them, and our future will be protected by them. It will be protected by you. So God bless America.
All right, so we will step away just briefly here as we heard from Marsha Blackburn and from Dan Crenshaw, 2 of the top, and I use that term loosely, scheduled speeches today. I do want to say thanks to Cabin for gifting 10 subscriptions over on Twitch. Let's see. A couple of interesting questions I wanted to get to here. Ryan Waltman asks, do I think this RNC is turning off more moderate Republicans than enticing more Trumpists? I think it's very difficult to make that assessment. I just think we're not going to know. And it's really going to be a turnout election in the end and not about actually swaying that many votes. Oh, we're in the middle of a level 4 hype train. That's beautiful. That's extraordinary what's going on. TJ asks, would Tulsi Gabbard be an easier sell to voters? To Republican or Democratic voters? I think either way the answer is no. Chakaseki says someone should tell delusional twit Blackburn about cancel culture espoused against Goodyear by Blotus, who has more spare tires than the Michelin Man. Chakaseki, I need you writing material for me. I really do. Sharpie Diesel says, does anyone feel like they've just tuned into the 700 Club? Very much so. Very much so. What else is on folks' minds here? Most Wise One says, American liberty was built on free expression, not your autocratic lies. They don't seem to know or care. I don't know which of the two. Epoxy says Crenshaw sounds like he's rehearsing a 2024 pitch. Alex Lichtenstein says, who has better teeth, Anthony Fantano or Ben Shapiro? Actually, I'm glad you mentioned Fantano. I keep trying to remember to put a note in my phone about I need to ask Fantano for a favor, and I'm going to put a note. I just put a note in my to-dos for tomorrow. It's a doozy of a to-do list tomorrow, and I got to reach out to Fantano. I think Fantano has the better teeth for sure. No question about it whatsoever. Okay, I don't want to fall behind on thanking people, so while this gentleman is speaking, I do want to say thanks to Sean Spencer, who's new member number 6 on my website today. Carol Timko is new member number 7. Joseph Avery and Lauren Pitt McClelland are numbers 8 and 9. Getting us into double digits is Sylvia Martinez at number 10. Lauren Stern is number 11. Angelina Wright, 12. Taylor Grendel, lucky 13. Kara Clement is 14. We're on fire. Elizabeth Gordon Hughes is new member number 15. Justin Harding is 16. AJ Adams, 17. Trey Beatty, 18. And Sean Wagner, number 19. Oh, sorry. And Brendan Sutherland, oh, that's weird, number 20. Explosive situation on my website. Unbelievable. Okay. I'm going to stay away from anything. Listen, guys, like I said yesterday, making fun of Melania's accent, it's beneath us. And anything related to Dan Crenshaw's injury, I just don't find it super fun. I think it's beneath us, so I'm going to stay away from that type of thing. Becky Hosman says, can you do member-only YouTube chat for 30 minutes? It's not a bad idea. Let's do this. Let's look at doing that a little bit later in the evening. I don't think that that's a bad idea. I would certainly consider that, and I think that that's an interesting idea. No House says, pro gaming team, de ogres, love you, David. Yeehaw. Oh, I appreciate that. I don't know much about it, but I like it. Kevin Escobar says, walks off even in Major League Soccer. Atlanta United walked off tonight in solidarity with the protests in the NBA. Not RNC, but I'm sure Trump will say something about it. Not surprising. And I would not be shocked if we did hear something from Donald Trump on that issue. I do want to say thanks to X-Ray Vision for subscribing over on Twitch. If you're just joining us, we do have Mike Pence scheduled as sort of the headliner tonight. We will also hear from Karen Pence. We've already heard from Senator Marsha Blackburn. We heard from Congressman Dan Crenshaw. We heard from South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Let me see who else was scheduled today. We heard from a logging executive. Okay. So the other folks that I'm very much aware of, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, we will be hearing from. Eric Trump's wife, Lara Trump, Congressman Lee Zeldin. Those are really the people and Joni Ernst. Oh, and Kellyanne Conway. So we have a lot still to go, and still a full 2 hours to go in the evening's presentation. I'm curious as to whether there will be more of these little montages of events done where Trump is put out there with like normal people and he just can't relate to anybody. And it's like super, super awkward. Let's listen to a little bit of this one.
A wife and mother, to share how education freedom has personally impacted my family, especially.
Education freedom is code for defund public schools. Remember that, kids.
Was even born, I was told his life wouldn't be worth living.
Toad? Like a frog?
When early tests revealed he had Down syndrome, our doctor encouraged me to terminate the pregnancy. He said, if you do not, you will be burdening your life, your family, and your community. I knew my baby was a human being created by God, and that made him worthy of life. I am thankful that President Trump values the life of the unborn. When we went to register Samuel for kindergarten, we were told to just put him where he...
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt these unconscionable rantings about how we should be defunding a public school and banning abortion. What I do want to remind you guys is only if you believe that... let me just go back. Does anyone believe Donald Trump was pro-choice until age 68 and then suddenly became pro-life just before he ran for president? Like, is that believable to anybody in my audience? If so, I have a bridge to sell you, right? And this is just a line that is repeated ad nauseum about how Trump is a man against abortion and all of this stuff. I don't even believe it. And in any case, I question the value of pushing the abortion issue at this point, given that the country is more in favor of abortion today than it has been at any time since Roe v. Wade. But I wouldn't be shocked if Trump paid for people's abortions and maybe pressured people to get them, if you understand what I'm saying. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not saying it happened, but it certainly wouldn't be shocking to me. Johan Sis says, this year's October surprise will be the Q3 market results. My feeling is they will be pretty bad, but if not, Trump will win. I don't know about market. I think you mean, do you mean GDP? I'm guessing you mean GDP. And if you do, yes, I've been predicting that for some time. We have 10 seconds left to finish out a level 5 hype train. I think we're going to fail to do it. Only 5 seconds left. That's sad. We almost made it. We almost made it. Very, very close. That's unfortunate. Matthew Paul is agreeing with me, saying it might be in bad taste, but of all the presidents we've had, Trump seems the most statistically likely to have had under-the-table abortions in his past. 100% agree. 100% agree with you. Incomplete Joker says, say what you do and blame others. Classic Republican tactic. Switch Republicans with Democrats and you'll get the truth in these speeches. Yeah, everything is opposite. It's opposite constantly in these speeches. You're absolutely right. Let's see who's up next. I'm guessing we'll have some of these propaganda montages coming up soon. Here is one about women voting, presumably. Zachary Etzioni says, will you debate at Politicon? I can't imagine Politicon is even going on. Let's see. Let me Google that. Politicon. Yeah, there's nothing. I can't imagine Politicon's happening for a while. Someday I will tell the story of why I was not at the last Politicon, and it is a hell of a story. It is a hell of a story that would shock and appall anyone with any sense of reason or rationality. But that's a story for a different day. That's not for today. Let me say thank you to Shannon Marshall, who is new member number 21 on my website today, and Daniel Andre Kroger is new member number 22. Greg Speth is 23, and Rich Hussein is number 24. We actually might get to 56 today, which is the goal. We're off to just a blazing fast start. Semi-truck driver says, now it makes sense that the Whack Pack loves Trump. Yeah, a surprisingly high number of Howard Stern Whack Packers seem to like Donald Trump. And it all sort of fits together in some way, right? I mean, I don't think that that's shocking to too many of us. Dare attend with a very aggressive super chat. You guys can read this one for yourselves. It's a little bit aggressive, and there could be kids watching, so I'm not going to read this one. In fact, I know that there are lots of kids watching today, but that's an aggressive one, and I'm not saying I disagree, by the way, at all. But I'm just not. I'm going to opt out of reading that one out loud. I would love to hear via super chat or in messages with your Twitch subscriptions. How are you planning to vote? In other words, what is your plan? Are you just saying, I'm voting in person, I'm going to wear 7 masks and a beekeeper's outfit, and I'm just going to do it? Or are you doing vote by mail and mailing it? Are you doing vote by mail and sending it in? Dropping it off. What is your plan as far as that goes? Thanks to the most wise one for gifting 5 subscriptions over on Twitch, getting us very close to 1,400. Blue Montserrat asks if I was not at Politicon the last time because I was afraid of debating Jesse Lee Peterson. No, that's not the reason why. That's not the reason why. Jason Nadal says, shout out to Katie for being an awesome girlfriend. Can you please get me a peanut butter popsicle from the freezer? I love you. Katie, that sounds like a polite request. I would do it. Erythropathak says, I'm moving somewhere near Diesel Cafe. Yay. Okay, congratulations. Chef's Pond says, doesn't this feel like karma for Trump and punishment for us that he criticized former presidents for handling certain situations, and now he's dealing with all of those himself at once? Well said. Let's listen to Kaylee Maganani.
I tested positive for the BRCA2 genetic mutation, a mutation that put my chances of breast cancer at at 84%. It was the same mutation that my mom had, compelling her to get a preventative double mastectomy, removing her breast tissue, but protecting her from a disease that has taken far too many of our mothers, our sisters, our friends. In my family, 8 women alone were diagnosed with breast cancer, several in their young 20s. I now faced the same prospect. For nearly a decade, I was routinely at Moffitt Cancer Center, getting MRIs, ultrasounds, and necessary surveillance. During these visits, I crossed paths with brave women battling cancer and fighting through chemotherapy. They were a testament to American strength. They are American heroes. On May 1st, 2018, I followed in my mother's footsteps, choosing to get a preventative mastectomy. I was scared. The night before, I fought back tears as I prepared to lose a piece of myself forever. But the next day, with my mom, dad, husband, I can tell you that this president stands by Americans with pre-existing conditions. In fact, President Trump called me this morning. I spoke with him several times today, and he told me how proud he was of me for sharing this story. The same way President Trump has supported me, he supports you.
That's not true.
I see it every day.
See, now is where it goes into nonsense.
I heard him say the hardest part of his job is writing to loved ones of fallen soldiers.
Trump writes?
I've seen him offer heartfelt outreach to grieving parents who lost their children to crime in the streets. And I've watched him fight for Americans who lost their jobs. President Trump fights for the American people because he cares about stories like these. I have a 9-month-old daughter. She's a beautiful, sweet little girl. And I choose to work for this president for her. When I look into my baby's eyes, I see a new life, a miracle for which I have a solemn responsibility to protect. That means protecting America's future, a future President Trump will fight for, where our neighborhoods are protected, where life is sacred, where God is cherished, not taken out of our schools, removed from our pledge, and erased from our history.
Why would God be in public schools? That doesn't make sense legally.
To grow up in President Donald J. Trump's America. Choosing to have a preventative mastectomy was the hardest decision I ever had to make. But supporting President Trump, who will protect my daughter and our children's future, was the easiest.
Okay. Continuing towards tonight's keynote, which is, of course, Vice President Mike Pence, who will formally accept his renomination. And this is Karen Pence. Okay.
My husband is Vice President Mike Pence. 100 years ago today, the 19th Amendment was adopted into the United States Constitution, guaranteeing women the right to vote. Because of heroes like Susan B. Anthony and Lucy Stone, women today, like our daughters, Audrey and Charlotte, and future generations, will have their voices heard and their votes count. The women's suffrage movement was the gateway that led to women having the opportunities to achieve monumental milestones and accomplish significant achievements in both civic and governmental roles. This evening, we look at heroes in our land. As Second Lady of the United States for the past 3.5 years, I have had the honor of meeting many heroes across this great country. The Pences are a military family. Our son Michael serves in the United States Marines, and our son-in-law Henry serves in the U.S. Navy. And one of my key initiatives is to elevate and encourage military spouses. These men and women, like our daughter Charlotte and our daughter-in-law Sarah, are the home front heroes. I have been privileged to hear so many stories of selfless support, volunteer spirit, and great contributions to the armed forces and our communities. You know, military spouses may experience frequent moves and job changes, periods of being a single parent while their loved one is deployed, all while exhibiting pride, strength, and determination, and being a part of something bigger than themselves. To all of the military spouses, thank you. President Trump and Vice President Pence have been supporting our United States Armed Forces, including our military families, on a significant scale. While traveling throughout our nation to educate military spouses about policy solutions that President Trump has promoted involving real, tangible progress in military spouse employment, I have been inspired to meet heroes like Lisa Bradley and Cameron Cruz. These military spouses decided to start their own business, Our Riveter, named after the Rosie the Riveter campaign used to recruit women workers during World War II. Our Riveter makes beautiful handbags designed and manufactured exclusively by military spouses. And many of those spouses live all over the country. They prepare and send their section of the bags to the company located in North Carolina, where the final product is assembled.
What does this have to do with voting for Trump?
Military spouse hero Jalon Hall Johnson in Billings, Montana, is a culinary artist who had dreamed of starting her own restaurant. Working with the Small Business Administration's Development Center, Jalon started her restaurant, The Sassy Biscuit.
Is this sponsored content?
Opened a second restaurant in Dover, New Hampshire. And as the second lady, I've also been able to bring awareness to a form of therapy for our heroic veterans suffering from PTSD. Art therapy, facilitated by a professional art therapist, is especially effective with post-traumatic stress disorder. Master Gunnery Sergeant Chris Stowe, a Marine veteran I met in Tampa, who deployed for combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, said nothing had helped him deal with the trauma from his service in the Marines until he finally agreed to meet with the art therapist at Walter Reed Medical Center. Chris credits art therapy with saving his marriage and his life. And Chris went on to establish a glass-blowing workshop to help other vets.
What saved her marriage, I wonder?
Veteran heroes struggle as they transition back into civilian life, and sometimes the stress is too difficult to manage alone. A few weeks ago, I had the honor of speaking with some amazing Americans who answer the Veterans Crisis Line. One in particular, Sydney Morgan, especially impacted me. A veteran herself, Sydney said it is the highest honor of her life until they physically walk into a clinic to receive help they deserve, and she can pass their hand to someone ready to help. In these difficult times, we've all seen so many examples of everyday Americans reaching out a hand to those in need, those who, in humility, have considered others more important than themselves. We've seen healthcare workers, teachers, first responders, mental health providers, law enforcement officers, grocery and delivery workers, and farmers, and so many others. Heroes all. 100 years ago.
Did you hear that? When she paused, somebody yelled something in the background. It's really weird.
Vote, America. Let's honor our heroes. Let's re-elect President Trump and Vice President Pence for 4 more years. God bless our heroes, and God bless the United States of America.
That was really weird, guys.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
Hey, just for a little maybe comedic interlude during the propaganda, I posted this to my Instagram yesterday. I want to get your thoughts as to whether you think this is real. This is an email that I got. Oh, by the way, if people really want something to just cool off, here's me with a puppy. That's just a beautiful image. But this is what I posted yesterday. How many of you think this is real? Hold on, let me zoom it out a little bit. Hello, David Pacman, misspelled. So many people state the Republican Party is white, so it was important for those to state their ethnicity, referring yesterday to why people were referring to their being black. Just like the demon rats, Donald Trump does need 4 more years to fix what the Bushes, Clintons, and Obamas did to this country. On top of all the BS they do to get in his way, a vote for Joe Biden will put our children at risk. Read the Constitution of this country. I'm watching you bash our president right now as I'm writing this. You're sick. I hope you get well soon. Don't forget, you can always buy a plane ticket. I prefer whole wheat everything, but some people just like plain, others like sesame. You can buy a plane ticket, Trump 2020. As you can see, Anthony Mellon Fantano in the chat saying a plane ticket sounds nice right now. Do you guys think that's real or is that a troll? Let me know what you think.
Household of all women. They were self-reliant and resilient. Their lives were not easy, but they never complained. Money was tight, but we had an abundance of what mattered most: family, faith, and freedom. I learned that in America, limited means does not make for limited dreams. The promise of America belongs to us all. This is a land of inventors and innovators, of entrepreneurs and educators, of pioneers and parents, each contributing to the success and the future of a great nation and her people. These everyday heroes have a champion in President Trump. The teacher who took extra time to help students adjust to months of virtual learning. The nurse who finished a 12-hour COVID shift and then took a brief break only to change her mask, gown, and gloves to do it all over again. The small business owner striving to reopen after the lockdown was lifted, and then again after her store was vandalized and looted. The single mom with 2 kids, 2 jobs, 2 commutes, who 10 years after that empty promise finally has health insurance. President Trump and Vice President Pence have lifted Americans, provided them with dignity, opportunity, and results. I have seen...
Try traveling to another country. See how much dignity you feel you have as an American right now.
And encouraging a child who has lost a parent who has lost a child, a worker who lost his job, an adolescent who lost her way to drugs. Don't lose hope, he has told them, assuring them that they are not alone and that they matter. There always will be people who have far more than us. Our responsibility is to focus on those who have far less than us. President Trump has done precisely that in taking unprecedented action to combat this nation's drug crisis. He told me, "This is so important, Kellyanne. So many lives have been ruined by addiction and will never even know it because people are ashamed to reach out for help and they're not even sure who to turn to in their tough..."
I can guarantee you Trump didn't say that to Kellyanne.
Look the other way. President Trump stared directly at this drug crisis next door and through landmark bipartisan legislation has helped secure historic investments in surveillance, interdiction, education, prevention, treatment, and recovery. We have a long way to go, but the political inertia that costs lives and the silence and the stigma that prevents people in need from coming forward is melting away. This is the man I know and the president we need for 4 more years. He picks the toughest fights and tackles the most complex problems. He has stood by me, and he will stand up for you. in honor of the women who empowered me and for the future of the children we all cherish. Thank you, and God bless you always.
Strange speech. And as many of you know, Kellyanne Conway down just to her last 5 days as part of the Trump administration. She will be leaving the White House. Her husband, George Conway, will be leaving Twitter and the Lincoln Project. And things are not very good right now for the Conway family. That I can very, very much assure you. Let me get caught up on new member thank yous. I don't want to fall behind. And then I want to do super chat. So this is a good time to get those in. New member number 25 today is Hannah Simpson. Number 26 is Michael Posey. Number 27 is Ray Olson. Abigail Paul is number 28. Mick Duffy just signed up on my website and is number 29. Brooke Saunders is number 30. Drake Anderson is 31. Tristan Henry is 32. And Catherine LaValle is new member number 33 today. We hit 56. That's the RNC high on Monday. And that's our target today. Okay, let's see what's on people's minds. Hardwood says it's funny that Kellyanne's husband is actively trying to get Trump out and is now an independent. It must be weird for her. Yeah, who knows what's going on in their house. I wanted to address this. Patty asks, please excuse my ignorance, David, but where would one go to follow the poll numbers? Do I go to different news outlets? The best place in my mind is Real Clear Politics. Real Clear Politics will show you all of the different polling. It'll show you an average. You can then look at individual polls, state polls, national, et cetera, et cetera. That's the way to go. What else? Oh, Bowser says Trump called for him and Biden to do a drug test. Wow. Yeah, Trump said that he will submit to a drug test, but he also wants Biden drug tested before the debate because Trump believes Biden was using some kind of performance enhancing drugs before the Bernie debate. That's the only way Biden could have performed so well. This is for real. It's not a joke. Thanks to Pseudo Spike for subscribing on Twitch with the message, Kellyanne quit because her daughter hates her. Not altogether wrong. Not altogether wrong. Haken Isek Sarak says, what is it with these Republican women stone cold eyes trying to look emphatic? They just look weird. Pop Stackles says, remember, there's a Category 4 hurricane hitting Louisiana right now. There is. The Husks Network says, really trying to look like saints with a nun. Yeah, they're certainly pandering to the more religious crowd. Remember, I mean, if you care about a more religious candidate, Joe Biden really is a Catholic and Donald Trump is not religious. So that's something, if that matters to you, certainly something I would keep in mind. Let's take a listen to what she's saying.
I have to say, may be difficult for some to hear. I am saying it because I'm not just pro-life, I'm pro-eternal life, and I want all of us to end up in heaven together someday. Which brings me to why I'm here today.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is the most pro-life president that this nation has ever had.
See, that's
defending
crazy.
Life at all stages. His belief in the sanctity of life transcends politics.
Trump clearly is fine with abortion, but he's just at 68 years old decided he has to be against it to run as a Republican.
Presidential ticket ever, even supporting the horrors of late-term abortion and infanticide. Because of his courage and conviction, President Trump has earned the support of America's pro-life community. Moreover, he has a nationwide of religious standing behind him. You'll find us here with our weapon of choice, the rosary. So thank you, Mr. President. We are all praying for you.
Okay, so there we have that. David McLaughlin with a very edgy message saying, David, you should do the stream shirtless to give your gay fans something better to pay attention to instead of these liars. Why would that only be for my gay fans? What about the heterosexual women in the audience? Or do you assume that there are none? Kind of an unusual message. Thanks to Volt Jamie for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Fuzegt says Biden should ask for Trump's taxes in exchange of the drug test. I like that. LA Laker says, I liked the coke-fueled circus from day one. These past 2 nights have been incredibly tedious. Night 1 was definitely the most boisterous. Certainly the most boisterous. Oh, people want to hear from Lou Holtz. Okay.
Any obstacles, and always remember that in this great country of ours, anyone can amount to something special. I live by those principles of hard work and responsibility my whole life, living out the American story, and it works. But there are people today, like politicians, professors, protesters, and of course, President Trump's naysayers in the media who like to blame others for problems. They don't have pride in our country. And because they no longer ask, what can I do for my country? Only what the country should be doing for them. They don't have pride in themselves. That's wrong. When I was an officer in the Army, I served with so many great Americans who embraced their responsibility to our country. I'm so proud of their sacrifices and the opportunity it has provided for so many millions. America remains a land of opportunity, no matter what the other side says or believes. You know, there's a statue of me at Notre Dame. I guess they needed a place for the pigeons to land. But if you look closely, you will see these three words there: trust, commitment, and love. All my life, I've made my choices based on these three words. I use these three rules to make choices about everything. My beloved wife of 59 years, athletes I coached, and of course, politicians, even President Trump. I ask myself three things. One, can I trust them? When a leader tells you something, you gotta be able to count on it. That's President Trump. He says what he means what he says, and he's done what he said he would do.
No.
At every single turn.
Wrong.
One of the important reasons he has my trust is because nobody has been a stronger advocate for the unborn than President Trump. The Biden-Harris ticket is the most radically pro-abortion campaign in history. They and other politicians are Catholics in name only and abandon innocent lives. President Trump protects those lives. I trust President Trump. The second question I ask is, are they committed to doing their very best? President Trump always finds a way to get something done. If you want to do something bad enough, you will find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. And excuses are a lot easier to find than solutions. President Trump finds solutions. President Trump is committed. And the third question I ask is, do they love people? Do they care about others? To me, this is very clear. President Trump has demonstrated through his prison reform, advocating for school choice and welfare reform.
Okay, so this is the view of a former football coach. I think we sort of understand that piece. Francisco Padilla asks, David, any chance we can get a Buff David meme to help get us through this? Also, can you say hi to Ness? We love your show. Yeah, I could probably pull up the Buff David deepfake. Let me see if I can find it here. It's actually a little bit difficult to find. Buff David. Yeah, that's a tough one. Okay, I think I got it. Let me see here. Yeah, we do need a little bit of comic relief. It's getting a little ugly. There it is. That's bearded Buff David, six-pack man. That's me after I leave the gym on leg day. Yep. There it is. Cool. All right. We're going to continue with super chats. Alan Glynn says, hope gullible old Lou doesn't watch those Tom Selleck commercials or he'll be homeless next. Yeah. Do we want to listen to this gentleman, Michael McHale? I'm sorry. The closed captioning was deceptive there. People want to hear from this guy. Okay.
Association of Police Organizations, NAPO. Our organization recently endorsed Donald Trump for re-election as President of the United States. Our endorsement recognized his strong support for the men and women on the front lines, particularly during these challenging times. We value his support of aggressive federal prosecution of those who attack our police officers, his signing of the Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act, and his support for permanently authorizing funds to support 9/11.
I actually used to have like a high and tight flat top. It was a while ago, but there was one or two times there were some instances where I asked for it at the hairdresser. It was different.
They do so willingly to protect our families and communities. I'm proud that the overwhelming majority of American police officers are the best of the best and put their lives on the line without hesitation. And good officers need to know their elected leaders and the department brass have their backs. Unfortunately, chaos results when failed officials in cities like Portland, Minneapolis, Chicago, and New York make the conscious decision not to support law enforcement.
I think we get the idea. This is definitely not what I would consider like a top tier speech of the evening. So I want to keep hearing from hearing from you guys. Some people asking where we are from the standpoint of 1 million subscribers. Everything is still going fine. Let's look at if we have an updated projection to make. Very important projection. October 13th. So it's come up another couple of days. We are estimated to hit 1 million YouTube subscribers, which is just going to be a massive accomplishment. I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. Even though we're still about, about a month and a half away from when we're slated to hit. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, you can help me by hitting subscribe right now. We are already working on a sort of congratulations, David and friends, congratulations on 1 million. And we have some great people that I think you're going to enjoy hearing from, cutting videos. Oh, and Austin Show. Yeah, at Austin Show, you replied to my Twitter DM. Yeah, Austin, you got to get me the video, okay? Please. We don't want things to get ugly here. But there's going to be a lot of people, some people you like, some people you don't like, who are going to be featured in this compilation that we are putting together for the 1 million subscriber day. It's going to be a huge, huge day. And Austin, please, please get me that video. Or you're just going to be out. That's it. Austin might be out and then it's over. Okay. Nora Baca asks if everyone took a Quaalude before speaking tonight. Listen, I don't know what drugs people are on during these things. I wish I knew more about what drugs are even available. Dia T says, if I had to summarize the RNC, day 1 equals high and raving mad. Day 2, hostage video vibes. Day 3, statues. I agree with that. Maeve Jack watches this 40 minutes behind so that they can skip the chunks of cringe. Oh, let's listen to Elise Stefanik. She's a bomb-throwing nut.
Revolution. It's where almost 250 years ago, brave patriots fought.
Her face is almost irrecognizable from what it looked like during the impeachment hearings. It's incredible.
It's where 40 years ago in Lake Placid, a team of amateur hockey players out-hustled, out-skated, and defeated the Soviet Union, stunning the world and giving us the unforgettable Miracle on Ice. And today, it's home to Fort Drum and the historic 10th Mountain Division.
The U.S. once did well in Olympic hockey, so we should re-elect Trump.
11, where I saw firsthand President Trump graciously thank and honor our men and women in uniform and sign the largest pay raise for our troops in a decade. Since our nation's founding, generation after generation of everyday Americans served and sacrificed to preserve and strengthen the American dream. The vision of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the idea that if you work hard and dream big, you can achieve anything you imagine.
Hey, I don't want to focus on something so irrelevant, but the flags look really cheap. They look like thin fabric that's wrinkled. Like their whole thing is all about flags, and the flags look piss poor.
My immediate family to graduate from college, ran for Congress to serve upstate New York, and am proudly the youngest Republican woman elected to Congress in history. I am honored to support President Trump for re-election because I know that he is the only candidate who will stand up for hardworking families and protect the American dream for future generations. Since his first day in office, President Trump has fought tirelessly to deliver results for all Americans, despite the Democrats' baseless and illegal impeachment sham and the media's endless obsession with it. I was proud to lead the effort standing up for the Constitution, President Trump, and most importantly, the American people. This attack was not just on the president. It was an attack on you, your voice, and your vote.
Okay, what is she talking about?
We're not swayed by these partisan attacks. Our support for President Trump is stronger than ever before. We know what's at stake in this historic election. Americans from all walks of life are unified in support of our president. It's why more Republican women than ever are running for office this year. We understand that this election is a choice between the far-left Democratic socialist agenda versus protecting and preserving the American dream. President Trump is working to safely reopen our Main Street economy. He understands that the engine of our country is fueled by the ingenuity and determination of American workers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses. Joe Biden wants to keep them locked up in the basement and crush them with $4 trillion in new taxes.
Remember, Biden said no tax increases on anybody earning under $400K.
Of the past 47 years, or President Trump, who will stand up for the American people and the Constitution. I believe in the wisdom and spirit of the American people to elect the only candidate who is capable of protecting the American dream.
Oh, she's switching to Biden?
President Donald J. Trump.
Oh.
Thank you to the North Country for the opportunity to serve as your voice supporting his re-election. God bless the United States of America, the greatest country on earth.
All right. So there is Congresswoman Elise Stefanik with maybe the most impassioned and belligerently delusional speech of the evening so far. And we are going to continue hearing from a number of different people throughout. Let's listen to Madison Cawthorn. He's become a little bit of a Republican celebrity lately.
I know something about adversity. At 18 years old, I was in a horrific car accident that's left me paralyzed from the waist down. Instantly, my hopes and dreams were seemingly destroyed. I was given a 1% chance of surviving. But thanks to the power of prayer, a very loving community, and many skilled doctors, I made it. It took me over a year to recover. My first public outing in a wheelchair was to a professional baseball game. You know, before my accident, I was 6'3". I stood out in the crowd. But as I wheeled through the stadium, I felt invisible. At 20, I thought about giving up. However, I knew I could still make a difference. You know, my accident has given me new eyes to see and new ears to hear. God protected my mind and my ability to speak. So I say to people who feel forgotten, ignored, and invisible, I see you. I hear you. At 20, I made a choice. In 2020, our country has a choice. We can give up on the American idea, or we can work together to make our imperfect union more perfect. I choose to fight for the future, to seize the high ground and retake the shining city on a hill. While the radical left wants to dismantle, defund, and destroy,
here we go.
Republicans, under President Trump's leadership, want to rebuild, restore, and renew. I just turned 25. When I'm elected this November, I'll be the youngest member of Congress in over 200 years. And if you don't think young people can change the world, then you just don't know American history. George Washington was 21 when he received his first military commission. Abe Lincoln, 22 when he first ran for office. And my personal favorite, James Madison, was just 25 years old when he signed the Declaration of Independence. In times of peril, young people have stepped up and saved this country, abroad and at home. We held the line, scaled the cliffs, crossed oceans, liberated camps, and cracked codes. Yet today, political forces want to usher in the digital dark ages, a time of information without wisdom and tribalism without truth. National leaders on the left have normalized emotion-based voting and a radicalized identity politics that rejects Martin Luther King's dream. MLK's dream is...
I have to tell you, we've seen way more identity politics during the RNC than the DNC.
...character. Millions of people risk their lives every year to come here because they believe in the dream of MLK and the American dream. Join us as we, the Party of Freedom, double down on ensuring the American dream for all people. We are committed to building a new town square. It welcomes all ideas and all people. Here we will have freedom of speech, not freedom from speech. To liberals, I say let's have a conversation. Be a true liberal. Listen to other ideas and let the best ones prevail. And to conservatives, I say let's define what we support and win the argument in areas like healthcare and on the environment. In this new town square, you don't have to apologize for your beliefs or cower to a mob. You can kneel before God, but stand for our flag. The American idea my ancestors fought for during the Revolutionary War is just as exciting and revolutionary today as it was 250 years ago. I say to Americans who love our country, young and old, be a radical for freedom.
Oh, guys.
Be a radical for liberty. And be a radical for our republic, for which I stand. One nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and may God bless America.
Okay. I mean, I guess my reaction is he didn't really make the case to vote for Trump. You know, I think that's where I would sort of leave the focus. I do want to get to a few super chats. So while we continue to dip in and out of the different speakers, let's see here. Eris Kittarelli says, hey, David, can you give a shout out to my father-in-law, John Whitehouse Jr.? He got me to subscribe to you and he loves your channel and show. Yes, John, thank you. Thank you for getting Eris Sky Tali to sign up for my program. I very much appreciate it. Chickenhead Pickneely says, would someone please iron the flags? I just don't want to iron them. Okay. Jizmatic. Okay. So tired of them invoking MLK. Yeah, they're invoking MLK for the opposite reason that MLK should be invoked. They in fact, I can't even do the MLK stuff. Wait a second. Aaron Green, this is like a Danny McBride comedy. Oh, some people want to listen to this. Do people want to listen to this or not? All right, we'll listen a little.
It has no resemblance to President Trump. And I'm fed up with the way he's portrayed in the media, who refuse to acknowledge what he's actually done for the black community. It's confusing the minds of our innocent children. Before I left to come deliver this message, my energetic 8-year-old son, Jackson, stopped me and said, Dad, can you please just tell everyone that all lives need to matter and that God loves everyone?
Okay, yeah. People actually don't really seem to want this one, so we'll get away from that. Sandy says, I wonder what they think Martin Luther King would feel about Confederate flags. Yeah. I've not heard that asked, but I think that it's a perfectly reasonable question. Thanks to Mercenary for subscribing over on Twitch, as well as Cherry AC and Bourbon, Volt Jamie, and Pseudo Spike. We are officially at 1,400 Twitch subscribers. That is we have breached 1,400. I have never achieved 1,400 before, and that is a great number to be at. Chakaseki says, David, could you give a shout out to my homeboy Ryan B in Boston? He's an expecting father. Ryan, shout out to you. Good luck. And it sounds like you're going to have your hands full very, very soon. Jeffrey Geltman says, I can't wait to see Mike Pence malfunction in front of the entire country. I don't think Mike Pence will malfunction, but you just won't be able to tell the difference. And Dennis Vardy says, thanks for all you do, David. I appreciate that as well. Thank you. I know I missed some super chats, so let's just scroll up and pick a random one. Those I got. Let's see what we've got. Keith Keith Jacobs is going to be voting in person. How do your number of viewers between the DNC and RNC live coverage compare? Sadly, Trump is up and Biden is down in recent polls. So I'm getting more viewership during the RNC than I got during the DNC from the standpoint of live. But the TV ratings seem to be down during the RNC relative to the DNC. So make of that what you will. Let's see here. The defense says, I can feel all of my brain cells melting away as these people speak. Yeah, I estimate I lost 6 IQ points on Monday, 3 of them when Kimberly Guilfoyle was screaming. And I did some things on Tuesday to recover them back, which I'm not even going to bore you with, but I feel like I do have them back. Mike Boudreau says, I would like somebody to troll the convention and say, don't vote for Trump. We don't even know if this stuff is live. And the stuff that is live, I'm sure is on a delay. So it would never get out. Someone would dump it. I don't think we would get it. Jonathan McCartney says, how can Trumpists be deprogrammed once this farce is over? Beautiful question. Let's deal with it when this is over. Let's deal with it when this is over. And it's a difficult question as well. I'm not pretending that it's an easy one. Joseph Dempsey says, hey, David, love the stream and the show. It's terrible, but U.S. politics is like a soap opera, and I can't look away. Can it be fixed anytime soon? No. Even if Biden wins, it's going to be a while. There's no doubt about that. None of these little montages where Trump meets with workers have been used tonight. And it's sort of surprising because I think Trump thinks they went really well. Obviously, they didn't. Okay, let's listen to what this is about.
When I spoke out against China's one-child policy and other injustices, I was prosecuted, beaten, sent to prison, and put...
This is another one of those, like, because bad things happen in China, or like they could bring a North Korean defector. That's terrible, but it doesn't mean we should vote for Trump. In fact, Trump is more like the leaders of China and North Korea than anybody I want in the Oval Office.
Embassy in Beijing. I'm forever grateful to the American people for welcoming me and my family to the United States, where we are now free. The CCP is an enemy of humanity. It is terrorizing its own people, and it is threatening the well-being of the world. In China, expressing beliefs or ideas not approved by the CCP, religion, democracy,
See, what's crazy about this is Trump is more enamored with President Xi, Kim Jong-un, Erdogan, Putin, you understand, than any president we've had in a very long time. So the idea of this to draw a contrast that says we should vote Trump, it's like, no, this is a reminder. Trump was impressed that Xi set it up so now he can be president indefinitely. This is a reminder we shouldn't vote Trump. They don't get, why am I bothering? They don't get it.
Led on this, and we need the other countries to join him in this fight, a fight for our future. Standing up to fight unfairness isn't easy, I know. So does President Trump, but he has shown the courage to lead that fight. We need to support, vote, and fight for President Trump for the sake of the world. Thank you.
Slick pinstripe suit, I have to tell you. That is a nice looking suit on this guy. Although the message seems very counterproductive. Here is Congressman Lee Zeldin.
America as a land of heroes. I'm here at a VFW Post of Heroes in West Hampton Beach, New York. I've seen amazing Americans in action. raised in a law enforcement family, deployed to Iraq as an 82nd Airborne paratrooper, and serving today in the Army Reserve. My generation of post-9/11 veterans has huge shoes to fill, following our greatest generation that fought tyranny and saved the world. All over our country, everyday heroes serve and sacrifice for the greater good. Farmers, truckers, craftsmen, these heroes keep America running, and President Trump fights for them every day. This year, we've especially relied on one particular group of heroes, frontline medical workers. My twin daughters, McHale and Ariana, were born over 14 weeks early. They weighed just 1.5 pounds. At 2 weeks, Michaela went into septic shock, had a stroke, and underwent brain surgery, leaving 1/3 of the left side of her brain a hole. Her doctors didn't believe Michaela would survive, fearing dire permanent consequences even if she did. Through the miracles of modern medicine, power of prayer, and her will to live, my daughters are now starting high school and doing great, with no long-term effects from those frightful months in the NICU. So when I learned my county's PPE stockpile was depleted, I immediately thought of those healthcare workers who saved my baby girls. Jared Kushner and I were on the phone late into that Saturday night. The very next day, President Trump announced he was sending us 200,000 N95 masks. He actually delivered almost 400,000. That number quickly grew to 1.2 million.
Yeah,
masks,
the numbers grow more quickly than FedEx can fly around, which is weird.
Thousands of ventilators to New York. He deployed the USS Comfort and converted the Javits Center to a field hospital. His administration authorized our lab testing requests at blinding speed. During a once-in-a-century pandemic, an unforeseeable crisis sent to us from a faraway land, the president's effort for New York was phenomenal. For our nation to emerge even stronger, more prosperous, freer, and more secure than ever. To make our country greater than ever before, we must re-elect President Trump. We are the land of the free because of the brave. And we are the land of opportunity because we have a president who wants to empower the best of who we are to be the best of what we can be. There's never been a nation greater than ours. Never a people more resilient than ours. And never a future for America more promising than ours right now. Keeping America great is up to us, and losing is not an option.
That speech was particularly devoid of anything. I mean, it's like, it was just so generic in nature. It was just, there's nothing there. There's no there, I think is the way I would say it. Let me thank a few people who signed up on my website because I don't want to keep falling behind on that. New member number 34 is Miracle Banks. New member number 35 is Bill Tucson. Tanya Lee is new member number 36. Kristi Coleman is number 37. And Lindsey Johns is number 38. We may actually get to 56, which was where we were on Monday. I have a pretty good feeling. We still have more than an hour to go. Okay, let's continue on here. Viola Spice says, it's entertaining watching right-wing hypocrisy at its prime. Half of the people speaking at the RNC stutter and they don't any sense. I guess you mean they don't make any sense when speaking. Yeah, I'm trying to focus more on the content, really, than the deliveries. Daratend says Trump only delivers PPE if he can throw it at them. Right, like when he went to Puerto Rico and shot rolls of paper towels. It's not really PPE, but I understand what you're saying. John Kovac points out still no hazard pay for essential workers. What else do we have? W. Pooh says Gary Locke, who's a Democrat, rescued him out of China, but he's now endorsing shooting border crosser on Twitter. That I didn't see. Oh, Joni Ernst, I did want to see what kind of lunatic things she came up with.
College, then dedicated my life to serving my country as a local official, a battalion commander in the military, and as a U.S. Senator.
Did she say she was an Italian commander? Oh, battalion.
It's a mission, a way of life. It's what brought me to Cedar Rapids, Iowa in 2008 when I was in the National Guard. We saw historic floods that swept through the communities. We lent a helping hand to our fellow Iowans who were literally underwater. We thought we had seen the worst, but 12 years later, these same communities have faced an even more devastating disaster, the recent derecho storm. If you don't live in Iowa, you may not have heard much about it at first. While reporters here in the state were in the trenches covering the equivalent of a Category 2 hurricane, most of the national media looked the other way. To them, Iowa is still just flyover country. Houses, farms were destroyed. About 1/3 of our crops here were damaged. In some cases, these storms wiped out a lifetime of work. And yet Iowa farmers didn't hesitate to grab their chainsaws and check on their neighbors. Our farmers live every day with that sense of service, the stewards of the land, the ones who feed and fuel the world. President Trump quickly signed an emergency declaration for Iowa to provide relief. And of course, when President Trump came to Cedar Rapids, the national media finally did too. For years, I've worked closely with the president for farmers in Iowa and across the country. We scrapped Obama and Biden's punishing waters of the United States rule, which would have regulated about 97% of land in Iowa, in some cases, even puddles. It would have been a nightmare for farmers. The president delivered on major trade deals with Japan and the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. And
that last one was where Trump didn't know where to sign.
Fuel year-round. That means more choices for you at the pump and more jobs for farmers in the heartland. This is something the Obama-Biden administration failed to do in 8 years. In fact, I can't recall an administration more hostile to farmers than Obama-Biden, unless you count the Biden-Harris ticket. The Democratic Party of Joe Biden is pushing this so-called Green New Deal. If given power, they would essentially ban animal agriculture and eliminate gas-powered cars.
Of course, that's completely untrue. Gas-powered cars, I mean, listen, every country is setting targets for getting out, off of internal combustion engines and over to electric. The idea that they're going to ban agriculture is ridiculous. These are just flat out lies and fear mongering that I hope doesn't work on anybody. It's crazy. They're going to end the suburbs. They're going to end cows. They're going to end everything.
And economic growth under a Trump-Pence administration. Or the Biden-Harris path, paved by liberal coastal elites and radical environmentalists. An America where farmers are punished, jobs are destroyed, and taxes crush the middle class. That is our choice, and it's a clear one.
This might be crazier than Elise Stefanik's speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Burgess Owens. Shackled in the belly of a slave ship, an 8-year-old boy named Silas Burgess came to America to be sold on an auction block. By the grace of God and the courage of slaves who believed in freedom, Silas escaped through the Underground Railroad and settled in the great state of Texas. He went on to become a successful entrepreneur. He built his community's first church, first elementary school, and purchased 102 acres of farmland, which he paid off in 2 years. I'm here today, a candidate for Congress, because of my great-great-grandfather, Silas Burgess. I was raised in the South during the days of Jim Crow and the KKK. Even through the challenges of segregation, we were taught that anything is possible in America. When I was 22 years old, I thought all my dreams had come true when I was drafted by the New York Jets. 10 years later, with a Pro Bowl nod and a Super Bowl championship under my belt, I left the NFL to start a business. I thought I could never fail, but years later I did, and I lost everything. As I moved my family of 6 into a 1-bedroom basement apartment in Brooklyn, New York, I had a choice.
That was weird. The closed caption said baseball apartment.
To work. I worked as a chimney sweep during the day and a security guard at night. It was humbling to be recognized cleaning a chimney by someone who once cheered me as an NFL fan. But those hard days would pay off, and eventually I started a rewarding career in the corporate world. We live in a country where we're encouraged to dream big, where second chances are at the core of our American DNA. We don't hear that same message from Nancy Pelosi's Congress. Career politicians, elitists, and even a former bartender want us to believe it's impossible. They want us to believe that what I did, what my great-great-grandfather did.
It's weird how they complain about coastal elites being, condescending, and then they keep making fun of AOC having been a bartender. It's like they just don't get it.
Members of Congress promotes the same socialism that my father fought against in World War II. We have a Democratic candidate for president who says that I'm not black if I don't vote for him. Now more than ever, we need leaders who stand by their principles and won't compromise their values for political opportunities. Now more than ever, we need leaders who will stand up to the lawlessness supported by the radical left. This November, we have an opportunity to reject the mob mentality and once again be the America that my great-great-grandfather believed in. During the Trump administration, business ownership among blacks, Hispanics, and females have reached all-time highs. Those same groups enjoyed record low unemployment and unprecedented prosperity, and we're just getting started. I'm running for Congress because we don't need more career politicians. We need a few more chimney sweeps. We need more leaders like President Trump who understand the freedoms that make up the fabric of America. My fellow Americans, specifically my Democrat and independent friends, it is now time for us to unite and put aside partisan barriers. Help us win back the House, keep the Senate, and give our president 4 more years, and I promise you, we will make you proud. Thank you, and God bless the United States of America.
So a very sort of out-of-touch speech floating in from nowhere. I do want to hear what people are saying, and if you want to get your message up to my left at the bottom left of the screen, those are YouTube Super Chats, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can send those in. For example, Derek Miller just sent one in saying, God, 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 maybe they should all stop talking and just go home and pray for Trump to win. That would work, right? Jonathan McCartney says, realizing that we are not there yet and could still avoid reaching it. Have you defined a certain point at which you would consider fleeing the country for your own protection? It has to have crossed your mind. Yeah, I have a clip about it a week or two ago. I have a clip on my YouTube channel about exactly that. And listen, I mean, it's like my life is in the United States now, so it would really it would take more than just Trump winning for me to leave. But there's no doubt that if Trump were to win, I would definitely look at doing some extended remote work type of things if coronavirus normalizes. Maybe in Argentina, where I was born and have family. It's something that's kind of always on the back burner. Like it would be great to just work from there for 6 months. I think Trump being reelected would be sort of the perfect incentive to do it. So I'm certainly thinking about that. And cost of living extraordinarily low there. Oliver Wilde says, I thought the military wasn't supposed to be politicized. I would never salute Trump, not because I disrespect the office of the president, but because he does. Well said. Ragnarok says more chimney sweeps, less bartenders. That's fewer bartenders. As we go now to Lara Trump.
Mother to Luke and Carolina, and the daughter-in-law of our 45th president, Donald J. Trump. But tonight, I come to you simply as an American. My life began like many in our country. I grew up in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. My parents were small business owners and worked hard to make sure that my brother and I had everything we needed, but not everything we wanted. My parents raised me to believe that in America, I could achieve anything with hard work and determination, that the opportunities available to me were limited only by the size of my ambition, that I should dream big, and I did. Those very dreams are what led me to New York City. I'd heard the adage, if I can make it there, I can make it anywhere, and I intended to do just that. Never in a million years did I think that I would be on this stage tonight, and I certainly never thought that I'd end up with the last name Trump. My 7th grade English teacher, Mrs. B, used to tell us, believe none of what you hear, half of what you read, and only what you're there to witness firsthand. The meaning of those words never fully weighed on me until I met my husband and the Trump family. Any preconceived notion I had of this family disappeared immediately. They were warm and caring, they were hard workers, and they were down to earth. They reminded me of my own family. They made me feel like I was home. Walking the halls of the Trump organization, I saw the same family environment. I also saw the countless women executives who thrived there year after year. Gender didn't matter. What mattered was the ability to get the job done. I learned this directly when, in 2016, my father-in-law asked me to help him win my cherished home state and my daughter's namesake, North Carolina. Though I had no political experience, he believed in me. He knew I was capable, even if I didn't. So it didn't surprise me when President Donald Trump appointed so many women to senior-level positions in his administration.
She wasn't surprised.
Secretary of the United Nations, Secretary of the Air Force, the first female CIA director, the first black female director of the Fish and Wildlife Service, and countless ambassadors, just to name a few. Under President Trump's leadership, women's unemployment hit the lowest level since World War II. 4.3 million new jobs have been created for women. In 2019 alone, women took over 70% of all new jobs. Female small business ownership remains at an all-time high, and 600,000 women have been lifted out of poverty, all since President Trump took office. He didn't do these things to gain a vote or check a box. He did them because they're the right things to do. 100 years ago today, the 19th Amendment was ratified, granting the right to vote to every American woman. And since that day, incredible strides have been made by women in America. From Amelia Earhart to Rosa Parks and Sally Ride, women shaped our history and are part of what has made our country the most exceptional nation in the world. I often think back to my 24-year-old self, driving alone in my car from North Carolina to New York City. And I think about what I'd tell myself now as we head towards the most critical election in modern history. This is not just a choice between Republican and Democrat or left and right. This is an election that will decide if we keep America America or if we head down an uncharted, frightening path towards socialism.
Aren't all of these people coastal elites that they decry?
America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves. While those words were spoken over 150 years ago, never have they been more relevant. Will we choose the right path and maintain the unique freedoms and boundless opportunities that make this country the greatest in the history of the world? Will we remain the beacon of hope for those around the world fighting oppression, communism, and tyranny? The choice is ours. I know the promise of America because I've lived it, not just as a member of the Trump family, but as a woman who knows what it's like to work in blue-collar jobs, to serve customers for tips, and to aspire to rise. When I look at my son Luke and my daughter Carolina, I wonder, what sort of country will I be leaving for them, for our future generations? In recent months, we've seen weak, spineless politicians cede control of our great American cities to violent mobs. Defund the police is the rallying cry for the new radical Democrat Party. Joe Biden will not do what it takes to maintain order, to keep our children safe in our neighborhoods and in their schools, to restore our American way of life. We cannot dare to dream our biggest dreams for ourselves or for our children while consumed by worry about the safety of our families. President Trump is the law and order president, from our borders to our backyards. President Trump will keep America safe. President Trump will keep America prosperous. President Trump will keep America America. If you're watching tonight and wrestling with your vote on November 3rd, I implore you, tune out the distorted news and biased commentary and hear it straight from someone who knows. I wasn't born a Trump. I'm from the South. I was raised a Carolina girl. I went to public schools and worked my way through a state university. Mrs. B from my 7th grade English class was right. What I learned about our president is different than what you might have heard. I learned that he's a good man, that he loves his family, that he didn't need this job, that no one on earth works harder for the American people, that he's willing to fight for his beliefs and for the people and the country that he loves. He is a person of conviction. He is a fighter and will never stop fighting for America. He will uphold our values. He will preserve our families. And he will build upon the great American edict that our union will never be perfect until opportunity is equal for all, including and especially for women. Our 40th president, Ronald Reagan, said it best: "The dreams of people may differ, but everybody wants their dreams to come true. And America, above all places, gives us the freedom to do that." It's up to us to keep this country a place where no dream is out of reach for our children and generations beyond. To my father-in-law, thank you for believing in me. Thank you for bravely leading this country, and thank you for continuing to fight every day for America. May God bless and protect the Gulf states in the path of the hurricane. May God bless our troops, and may God continue to bless this incredible country.
How wholesome. Wow, what a wholesome speech. Some really good super chats coming in. James Montalbano says it's really very hard to believe this is reality. Benefi says, since we are on the subject of women in Trump's administration, let's not forget what he did to Marie Yovanovitch. Yes. And then there was another good one here. The Price of Drama says, I really like how positive and uplifting the past 3 days have been, David. No, really, my blood pressure has never been at healthier levels. Well said. Very, very much well said. The main event, as it were, tonight, the sort of keynote address, will be from Vice President Mike Pence, who's going to be accepting the renomination as vice president. A thank you to Procrastination, who has subscribed with Twitch Prime and is Twitch subscriber 1,406. While we have a moment here, I want to get caught up on the number of members. We have a target of 56. We're getting very close, okay? Number 39 is Steve Coate. Number 40 is Scott Takala. Number 41 is thewpgirl.com. Okay. Catherine Himes is number 42. Michael Anderson is number 43. Amber Fritz is 44. And Alejandro Barajas is number 45. So we are getting very, very close to our high of 56, which was set on Monday. And let's see what else is coming in via Super Chat. Darth Vadent says, are you confident the Don will win re-election? No, I have no idea who's going to win. I think it really could go either way. First Love Smokers and Barbecue says, has Trump spoken to the family of Jacob Blake? Biden and Harris have. Look it up. I don't believe that Trump has. It does not appear that way. Jason Nadal says, what do you think of the Norpoth poll that claims Trump has a 91% chance of winning? Conservatives have been touting it as solid proof of Trump's win. Well, hopefully it'll disincentivize them to from voting, and they simply won't vote. Val McClinchy says, if you open the phones, will it be Discord? The phones are not getting open tonight, Val. It's been some very, very long days, so I am going right to bed when this is over. So I have not even raised the issue of phones this evening, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective on that. A continued demands for me to start an OnlyFans. As I've said before, I am not doing OnlyFans, but I am on Cameo. That is true. I am on Cameo, but I'm not going to be doing OnlyFans. JRMS Productions says, this is just hurting my brain. As a Canadian, this is just so hard to watch, and I see them moving more right, like our conservatives here are your Democrats. Pop Stackles says, I know you've touched on the subject, but you've never speculated about what you think the answer is or will be to dealing with the 60 million people that think this is truthful. Is the union breaking? I don't know. What this viewer is alluding to, as I've said before, win or lose, 60-something million people are going to vote for Trump in November, and they're still going to live in this country even if Trump loses. How do we deal with that is the question. And I don't have an answer. And I'm sort of tabling the conversation. Let's get to November 3rd first and then figure out the rest. Serge Somberak says, do you think Trump will refuse to leave the White House if he loses? I don't think so. I think he will claim it's rigged, and I think he is going to do what he can to justify that he won. But ultimately, he will go because if he loses on January 20th, he will no longer be president of the United States. Yabit says that this convention has been just like an Amway convention. Not altogether incorrect. There are a lot of components of that. Blind loyalty, delusional talking points, suspension of any kind of critical thinking or disbelief, scams. So yeah, very much so. Deritend says, David, come to Europe for a while. We need Pac-Man. I would love to go to Europe, just not allowed. Dev Elote says, why haven't Americans been protesting the blatant voting sabotage? Is that not a core right? There should be protesting of what's going on with voting. You're completely correct from a moral standpoint. Awesome Gaming says, how do you think Trump will respond to the Category 4-5 hurricane? I have no idea. Peter Orbach says, I made latkes and drank beer tonight. I'm still sane. That's fantastic. I haven't had a good latke for a little while, but this is not a sponsor. I just love it. Over the weekend, I did go to Michael's Deli in Brookline. I visited Stephen, and I bought a whole bunch of knishes. People asking how Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bennell II got into Sweden. I believe Sweden is one of the places that has not banned Americans. Now, the truth is, I have friends who are in Europe, and the way they did it is they went to the UK for 14 days and quarantined, which you're allowed to do as an American. Then they went to other countries and entered as people coming from Europe because that's what they did. So, like, I get it. It could be done. But will I do it? That's a different question. Very different question. Thank you to Zach Salmi, who is new member number 46 today at joinpacman.com. We are now just 10 members from reaching our Monday record of 56 in one stream. Not an all-time record, but it was the highest from any stream evening. Okay, it looked like people were reacting very strongly to what I said about the European stuff, but it seems people have calmed down. We are down to roughly the last 40 or 45 minutes of night 3. The good news is after this, we will be 75% of the way through, and we will have just tomorrow left to go. The bad news is we have to still listen to Mike Pence give a speech, and I'm expecting that it'll probably be in about 20 minutes or so. Numbered says, is Destiny justified the Kenosha shooter? Destiny justified the Kenosha shooter. What's your response? I didn't see that. That sounds crazy. But I didn't see it, so it'd be hard to respond. Michael Henkley says Trump will nuke the hurricane. Derek Miller says, my boss keeps telling people if Trump loses, then she knows for a fact the election was rigged. Her only reasoning she gives is because she knows Democrats who are voting for Trump. Yikes. That's scary stuff. Okay, I think this one we should listen to. This is Grenell, right? Yeah.
One outsider stood alone and said in public what most Americans thought in private. It was 14 years after the start of the war in Afghanistan and 12 years after the invasion of Iraq, where thousands of American troops had died and trillions in taxpayer dollars had been spent. And yet no candidate could bring themselves to admit that something had gone badly wrong with American foreign policy. That the American voter the American soldier, and the American taxpayer had all been let down. Except for one, Donald Trump. He called America's endless wars what they were, a disaster. The media was shocked because Donald Trump was running as a Republican. And yet he said out loud what we all knew, that American foreign policy was failing to make Americans safer. After the end of the Cold War,
just need new batteries
Democrats
for my
and
mouse.
Republicans in Washington bought into the illusion that the whole world would start to resemble America. And so they started to pursue unlimited globalization. They welcomed China into the World Trade Organization. They engaged in nation building in Afghanistan and tried to export democracy to Iraq. They signed a nuclear deal with Iran. And a global climate agreement in Paris. But they didn't ground any of it in the interests of the average American. So for decades, while Washington politicians built a global system, American wages stagnated. Our great cities and industries were hollowed out. Entire communities were devastated. And our manufacturing plants were shipped off to China. That's what happened when Washington stopped being the capital of the United States and started being the capital of the world. As U.S. ambassador to Germany, I had a front row seat to Donald Trump's America First foreign policy. I wish every American could see how President Trump negotiates on their behalf. I've watched President Trump charm the Chancellor of Germany.
That's interesting. Trump negotiates for sport and to feel like he's winning things. He's not negotiating for Americans.
As President Trump say to foreign leaders, I don't blame you for wanting America to pay for your security. I actually respect you for out-negotiating the presidents before me. But it stops with me. I won't let the American taxpayer be taken advantage of. Donald Trump's administration has always made clear that our priority is the American people's security. That's the job of all leaders, to put their people first. And we've seen how this strategy has succeeded. In 4 short years, Donald Trump has led even some Washington Democrats to agree on the Chinese threat, on trade deals that benefit America first, on alliances that share responsibility. In 4 years, Donald Trump didn't start any new wars. He brought troops home. He rebuilt the military and signed peace deals that make Americans safer. The Washington elites want you to think this kind of foreign policy is immoral, and so they call it nationalist. That tells you all you need to know. The D.C. crowd thinks when they call Donald Trump a nationalist, they're insulting him. As if the American president isn't supposed to base foreign policy on America's national interests. A return to the Biden way of thinking means America gives the radical terrorist regime in Tehran a plane load of cash in the middle of the night. Well, you see, President Trump also sent an aircraft in the middle of the night to deal with Iran. But that plane was on a different mission. An airstrike to take out the head of Iran's terror machine who plotted the deaths of Americans. But we also must be clear.
This is vile.
That when those who seek freedom take tremendous personal risk in places like Hong Kong, Tehran, or Minsk, there is no doubt who President Trump's administration supports. We will always stand with the people who fight for their God-given freedoms. Don't be fooled. The Washington establishment is trying to sell you on their candidate. Joe Biden was first elected to the Senate in 1972.
That was a weird cut. I don't know if anybody noticed that. I wonder what the deal with that was.
Well, it's actually the typical Washington story. Just this year, 22 Democrats ran for president. They rejected all of the outsiders and nominated the ultimate Washington insider, someone they had to pull out of retirement. Every time Joe Biden offers a new idea, you should ask yourself, why didn't he try that over the last 48 years? Today, the Democrats blame a global...
Yesterday it was 47, now it's 48 years.
And they still blame Russia for Hillary Clinton's loss in 2016. As acting director of national intelligence, I saw the Democrats' entire case for Russian collusion. And what I saw made me sick to my stomach. The Obama-Biden administration secretly launched a surveillance operation on the Trump campaign and silenced the many brave intelligence officials who spoke up against it. They presented bogus information as facts. They lied to judges. Then they classified anything that undermined their case. And after Donald Trump won the election, when they should have continued the American tradition of helping the president-elect transition into the White House, they tried instead to undercut him even more.
Understand, none of this is true.
President Joe Biden asked intelligence officials to uncover the hidden information on President Trump's incoming national security advisor 3 weeks before the inauguration. That's the Democrats. Between surveillance, classifications, leaks, and puppet candidates, they never want the American people to know who's actually calling the shots. But with Donald Trump, you always know exactly who is in charge. Because the answer is you. You're in charge. Not lobbyists, not special interests, not warmongers or China sympathizers or globalization fanatics. With Donald Trump and Mike Pence in the White House, the boss is the American people. President Trump rightly calls his foreign policy America First. America First does not advance the interests of one group of Americans at the expense of another. It has no bias about red or blue, educated or not educated, urban or rural. America First is simply the belief that politicians should focus on the equality and dignity of every American, and that this duty is fulfilled by promoting the safety and wealth of the American people above all else. That's America First. That's the Trump doctrine. And that, my friends, is 4 more years.
Whoa. I'm going to be in recovery mode for a while from taking in all of those very low-level ideas, so I'm going to need to excuse myself momentarily. Now we begin building towards the keynote of night 3, which is going to be Vice President Mike Pence. That could be anywhere from, 5 to maybe 15 minutes from now. Unclear how long Mike Pence will speak. Hopefully not inordinately long, because it is going to be very difficult to get through. But the good news is that a lot of fine people, very fine people on my side, are signing up on my website. New member number 47 today is Catherine Keener. New member number 48 is Michael Doer. Joey St. Clair is new member number 49. Purushottam Gosai is new member number 50. And Paul Yanchek is number 51, putting us very strongly within striking distance of 56, which was Monday's record at joinpacman.com. They're going back to some propaganda videos. Let me see what people are saying over here via Super Chat. Brad Smith says they say they want to be inclusive and open to all Americans while at the same time insulting Democrats, which is a good portion of this country. Of course. Let's see here. Some Ting Wong is quoting Donald Trump. I like this. This is a quote from Trump. I moved on her. I just start kissing them. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the you know what. The Price of Dreams says, David, I'm drowning in the cognitive dissonance and hypocrisy that comes in claiming the opposing side presented bogus information as facts. Please help. Can't help you there. I wish I could help. Audax asks, did Richard Grenell forget about impeachment? Johan Walston says, I can't understand how people can buy these last 4 years if you weren't emotional bias, which is an disorder. D, can you explain how this could go so wrong? Johan, I love the support. I'm having a little trouble parsing the exact question you're asking, but I do really, really appreciate the support. Samantha B. Slayan says voting for Biden on November 3rd is the only way this insanity will stop. Biden-Harris 2020, as we prepare for some weaponized disinformation propaganda from Vice President Mike Pence, expecting him any moment now. As far as we've been told, guests that will be in the crowd, I guess there will be a crowd, have not been tested for coronavirus tonight. And, you tell me how much of a risk you think that is. Playable Tengu says Trump didn't start any new wars, then proceeds to brag about Trump inching us to the brink of war with Iran. I'm baffled. Yeah, Trump didn't start any new wars, but let me brag about Trump bombing Iran. Very weird. Very, very weird. Thanks to Lil Stu Live for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Also, Jeff and Jax has subscribed with Prime. Zizak and Egalitarian Beggar, as well as Gina Doodle, Damian Zander, The Napkins, have all subscribed with Prime. By popular demand, the number of Twitch subscribers on screen throughout the evening, 1413 currently. 1413, that's the number. That is a high watermark. We've never had at any point, from the standpoint of Twitch, we have never had more than 13 active subscriptions. We've been, some people seem to want the audio. Do people want the propaganda video? We've just been skipping the propaganda videos that come up in advance of speeches, but I'm glad to play it if people want it. Seems pretty split. A lot of no's. Oh, but some people are saying it is the Pence one, so that we should be watching it. All right, let's check it out. And I'm going to get a refill of my water momentarily, and then we'll see the speech.
Guide our country and every one of us to greater heights. In this land of the free and home of the brave. Vice President Mike Pence.
Oh my God. Is there a pandemic right now?
Please welcome the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, accompanied by the Second Lady, Mrs. Karen Pence.
Is she his chaperone, or is he chaperoning her? I don't even get it. It's like there's no pandemic going on. This gigantic crowd with no masks reportedly wasn't even COVID tested. What on earth? All right, I'll be back.
Good evening, America. It's an honor to speak to you tonight from the hallowed grounds of Fort McHenry, the site of the very battle that inspired the words of our national anthem. Those words have inspired this land of heroes in every generation since. It was on this site 206 years ago when our young republic heroically withstood a ferocious naval bombardment from the most powerful empire on earth. They came to crush our revolution, to divide our nation, and to end the American experiment. The heroes who held this fort took their stand for life, liberty, freedom, and the American flag. And those ideals have defined our nation. But they were hardly ever mentioned at last week's Democratic National Convention. Instead, Democrats spent 4 days attacking America. Joe Biden said that we were living through a season of darkness. But as President Trump said, where Joe Biden sees American darkness, we see American greatness. In these challenging times, our country needs a president who believes in America, who believes in the boundless capacity of the American people to meet any challenge, defeat any foe, and defend the freedoms we hold dear. America needs 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. Before I go further, allow me to say a word to the families and communities in the path of Hurricane Laura. Our prayers are with you tonight, and our administration is working closely with authorities in the states that will be impacted. FEMA has mobilized resources and supplies for those in harm's way. This is a serious storm, and we urge all those in the affected areas to heed state and local authorities. Stay safe, and know that we'll be with you every step of the way to support, rescue, respond, and recover in the days and weeks ahead. That's what Americans do. Four years ago, I answered the call to join this ticket because I knew that Donald Trump had the leadership and the vision to make America great again. And for the last 4 years, I've watched this president endure unrelenting attacks, but get up every day and fight to keep the promises that he made to the American people. So with gratitude for the confidence President Donald Trump has placed in me, the support of our Republican Party, and the grace of God, I humbly accept your nomination to run and serve as Vice President of the United States.
I can tell I just missed propaganda. Somebody please tell me what I just missed.
Serving the American people in this office has been a journey I never expected. It's a journey that would not have been possible without the support of my family, beginning with my wonderful wife, Karen.
Has anybody spread the virus yet?
An incredible mother to our 3 children. And she is one outstanding Second Lady of the United States. I'm so proud of you. And we couldn't be more proud of our 3 children. Marine Corps Captain Michael J. Pence and his wife, Sarah. Our daughter, Charlotte Pence Bond, an author, and the wife to Lieutenant Henry Bond, who is currently deployed and serving our nation in the United States Navy. And our youngest, a recent law school grad, our daughter Audrey, and her fiancé, who, like so many other Americans, had to delay their wedding this summer. But we can't wait for Dan to be a part of our family. In addition to my wife and kids, the person who shaped my life the most is also with us tonight. My mom, Nancy. She is the daughter of an Irish immigrant, 87 years young, And Mom follows politics very closely. And the truth be told, sometimes I think I'm actually her second favorite candidate on the Trump-Pence ticket.
Oh, God. What an indictment.
Thank you, Mom. I love you. Over the past 4 years, I've had the privilege to work closely with our president. I've seen him when the cameras are off. Americans see President Trump in lots of different ways.
Fair.
But there's no doubt how President Trump sees America. He sees America for what it is. A nation that has done more good in this world than any other. A nation that deserves far more gratitude than grievance. And if you want a president who falls silent when our heritage is demeaned or insulted, he's not your man.
Okay.
Now, we came by very different routes to this partnership. And some people think we're a little bit different. But you know, I've learned a few things watching him. Watching him deal with all that we've been through over the past 4 years. He does things in his own way, on his own terms. Not much gets past him. And when he has an opinion, he's liable to share it. He's certainly kept things interesting. But more importantly, President Donald Trump has kept his word to the American people. In a city known for talkers, President Trump is a doer. And few presidents have brought more independence, energy, or determination to that office. 4 years ago, we inherited a military hollowed out by devastating budget cuts.
That's a lie.
An economy struggling to break out of the slowest recovery since the Great Depression.
That's a lie.
ISIS controlled a land mass twice the size of Pennsylvania.
That's true.
And we witnessed a steady assault on our most cherished values, freedom of religion and the right to life. That's when President Donald Trump stepped in. And from day one, he kept his word. We rebuilt our military. This president signed the largest increase in our national defense since the days of Ronald Reagan and created the first new branch of our armed forces in 70 years, the United States Space Force.
Come on, guys.
And with that renewed energy, we also returned American astronauts to space on an American rocket for the first time in nearly 10 years.
Nothing to do with this administration. That was Elon
And after
Musk.
years of scandal that robbed our veterans of the care that you earned in the uniform of the United States, President Trump kept his word again. We reformed the VA, and Veterans Choice is now available for every veteran in America.
That's an Obama policy from 2014. Obama did
Our
that.
armed forces and our veterans fill this land of heroes. And many join us tonight in this historic fort. Tonight we have among us 4 recipients of the Medal of Honor. Six recipients of the Purple Heart.
It's sort of like a low-rent State of the Union.
Our mother of a gallant Navy SEAL. And wounded warriors from Soldier Strong, a group that serves our injured veterans every day. We are honored by your presence, and we thank you for your service. With heroes just like these, we defend this nation every day. And under this commander-in-chief, we've taken the fight to radical Islamic terrorists on our terms, on their soil. Last year, American armed forces took the last inch of ISIS territory, crushed their caliphate, and took down their leader without one American casualty. And I was there when President Trump gave the order to take out the world's most dangerous terrorist. Iran's top general will never harm another American because Qasem Soleimani is gone.
Qasem.
My fellow Americans, you deserve to know. Joe Biden criticized President Trump following those decisions. Decisions to rid the world of two terrorist leaders.
You deserve to know that.
But it's not surprising, because history records that Joe Biden even opposed the operation that took down Osama bin Laden. It's no wonder that the Secretary of Defense under the Obama-Biden administration once said that Joe Biden has been, and I quote, wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades. So we've stood up to our enemies, and we've stood with our allies. Like when President Trump kept his word and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the State of Israel.
That plays really well at this convention.
The first Arab country to recognize Israel in 26 years. Closer to home, we appointed more than 200 conservative judges to our federal courts. We supported the right to life and all the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution, including the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. And when it came to the economy, President Trump kept his word and then some. We passed the largest tax cut and reform in American history. We rolled back more federal red tape than any administration ever had. We unleashed American energy.
Meaningless platitude.
And fought for free and fair trade. And in our first 3 years, businesses large and small created more than 7 million good-paying jobs, including 500,000 manufacturing jobs all across America. Our country became a net exporter of energy for the first time in 70 years. Unemployment rates for African Americans and Hispanic Americans hit the lowest level ever recorded. And on this 100th anniversary of the woman's right to vote, I'm proud to report that under President Donald Trump, we achieved the lowest unemployment rate for women in 65 years.
So that's sort of a math game. When the unemployment rate is low, it's low for most groups, you could say. I mean, is it low for American Samoans or whatever? It's not really substantive.
Great again. And then the coronavirus struck from China. Before the first case of the coronavirus spread within the United States, the president took unprecedented action and suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world.
Brace yourselves.
Now, that action saved untold American lives. And I can tell you firsthand, it bought us invaluable time to launch the greatest national mobilization since World War II. President Trump marshaled the full resources of our federal government from the outset.
Marshaled.
He directed us to forge a seamless partnership with governors across America in both political parties. We partnered with private industry to reinvent testing and produce supplies that were distributed to hospitals around the land. Today, we're conducting more than 800,000 tests a day, and we have coordinated the delivery of billions of pieces of personal protective equipment for our amazing doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers. We saw to the manufacture of 100,000 ventilators in 100 days. And no one who required a ventilator was ever denied a ventilator in the United States.
That's unclear. It's unclear that that's true.
We built hospitals, surged military medical personnel, and enacted an economic rescue package that saved 50 million American jobs. As we speak, we're developing a growing number of treatments known as therapeutics, including convalescent plasma that are...
None of that has been developed in the United States even, never mind by anybody having to do with the Trump administration.
That no miracle is coming. Well, what Joe doesn't seem to understand is that America is a nation of miracles. And I'm proud to report that we're on track to have the world's first safe, effective coronavirus vaccine by the end of this year. After all the sacrifice in this year like no other, all the hardship, we're finding our way forward again. But tonight, our hearts are with all the families who've lost loved ones and have family members still struggling with serious illness. In this country, we mourn with those who mourn. We grieve with those who grieve. And this night, I know that millions of Americans will pause and pray for God's comfort for each of you.
This is delusionally gross.
You know, our country doesn't get through such a time unless its people find strength within. The response of doctors, nurses, first responders, farmers, factory workers, truckers, and everyday Americans who put the health and safety of their neighbors first has been nothing short of heroic. Veronica Sayez put on her scrubs every day in and day out, went to work in one of New York City's busiest hospitals. She stayed on the job, put in the long hours until it was done, and then got back in her neighborhood and helped neighbors and friends struggling. Her brother William is a New York City firefighter. And they're both emblematic of heroes all across this country. They're with us tonight. And I say to them and to all of you, you have earned the admiration of the American people, and we will always be grateful for your service and care.
This is a perfect example of like, okay, but so because they did interesting and good things in New York, why would we vote for Trump and Pence? And if you I mean, it's playing on people's emotion, but it actually does not have anything to do with Trump and Pence's reelection.
Thanks to the courage and compassion of the American people, we're slowing the spread. We're protecting the vulnerable. And we're saving lives. And we're opening up America again. Because of the strong foundation that President Trump poured in our first 3 years, we've already gained back 9.3 million jobs in the last 3 months alone.
Is that of the 47 million lost, or what's the math on that?
Up America again. We're opening up America's schools. And I'm proud to report that my wife, Karen, that school teacher I've been married to, will be returning to her classroom next week. And so to all of our heroic teachers and faculty and staff, thank you for being there for our kids. We're going to stay with you every step of the way. In the days ahead, as we open up America again, I promise you, we'll continue to put the health of America first. And as we work to bring this economy back, we all have a role to play. And we all have a choice to make. On November 3rd, you need to ask yourself, who do you trust to rebuild this economy?
Fair.
A career politician who presided over the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression? Or a proven leader who created the greatest economy in the world? The choice is clear.
Yeah.
To bring America all the way back, we need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House.
This guy right here in the standard Republican outfit of the blue blazer and the khakis led the standing O.
My fellow Americans, we're passing through a time of testing. But in the midst of this global pandemic, just as our nation had begun to recover, we've seen violence and chaos in the streets of our major cities. President Trump and I will always support the right of Americans to peaceful protest. But rioting and looting is not peaceful protest. Tearing down statues is not free speech. And those who do so will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah. Those are local decisions based on existing law. I mean, they're crimes, sure.
Last week, Joe Biden didn't say one word about the violence and chaos engulfing cities across this country. So let me be clear. The violence must stop, whether in Minneapolis, Portland, or Kenosha. Too many heroes have died defending our freedom to see Americans strike each other down. We will have law and order on the streets of this country for every American of every race and creed and color.
I don't know about you, but that's bingo for me.
President Trump and I know that the men and women that put on the uniform of law enforcement are the best of us. Every day, when they walk out that door, they consider our lives more important than their own. People like Dave Patrick Underwood.
Uh-oh.
An officer in the Department of Homeland Security's Federal Protective Service, who was shot and killed during the riots in Oakland, California. Dave's heroism is emblematic of the heroes that serve in blue every day. And we're privileged tonight to be joined by his sister, Angela. Angela, we say to you, we grieve with your family. And America will never forget or fail to honor Officer Dave Patrick Underwood. The American people know we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement and standing with our African American neighbors to improve the quality of their lives, education, jobs, and safety. And from the first days of this administration, we've done both. And we will keep supporting law enforcement and keep supporting our African American and minority communities across this land for 4 more years.
What the hell is going on here, guys?
Now, Joe Biden says that America is systemically racist and that law enforcement in America has, and I quote, an implicit bias against minorities. When asked whether he'd support cutting funding to law enforcement, Joe Biden replied, yes, absolutely. Joe Biden would double down on the very policies that are leading to violence in America's cities. The hard truth is, you won't be safe in Joe Biden's America. And under President Trump, we will always stand with those who stand on.
It's weird because all they talk about is how unsafe everything is now, but Trump's president now. It seems people are unsafe now, right?
My fellow Americans, we're passing through a time of testing, but soon we will come to a time for choosing. Joe Biden has referred to himself as a transition candidate, and many were asking, transition to what?
Out of insanity.
But last week, Democrats didn't talk very much about their agenda. And if I were them, I wouldn't either. I mean, Bernie Sanders did tell his followers that Joe Biden would be the most liberal president in modern times. In fact, he said, and I quote, that many of the ideas he fought for, that just a few years ago were considered radical, are now mainstream.
They're now mainstream.
In the Democratic Party.
In America.
At the root of their agenda is the belief that America is driven by envy, not aspiration.
No.
That millions of Americans harbor ill will toward our neighbors instead of loving our neighbors as ourselves. The radical left believes that the federal government must be involved in every aspect of our lives to correct those American wrongs.
No.
They believe the federal government needs to dictate how Americans live, how we should work, how we should raise our children, and in the process deprive our people of freedom, prosperity, and security.
I don't hear anyone saying that.
Their agenda is based on government control. Our agenda is based on freedom.
Trump's literally sending in troops overriding mayors and governors. How is that not an agenda of government control?
$1 trillion. Where this president achieved energy independence for the United States, Joe Biden would abolish fossil fuels, end fracking.
That sounds great.
Impose a regime of climate change regulations that would drastically increase the cost of living for working families. Where we fought for free and fair trade, and this president stood up to China and ended the era of economic surrender, Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China. He wants to repeal all the tariffs that are leveling the playing field for American workers.
The tariffs are insane.
And he actually criticized President Trump for suspending all travel to China at the outset of this pandemic. Joe Biden is for open borders.
No.
Sanctuary cities. Free lawyers and health care for illegal immigrants. And President Trump, he secured our border and built nearly 300 miles of that border wall. Joe Biden wants to end school choice. And President Trump believes that every parent should have the right to choose where their children go to school, regardless of their income or area code. President Trump has stood without apology for the sanctity of human life every day of this administration. Joe Biden, he supports taxpayer funding of abortion right up to the moment of birth. When you consider their agenda, it's clear. Joe Biden would be nothing more than a Trojan horse for the radical left.
Unfortunately,
the choice in this
not.
election has never been clearer, and the stakes have never been higher. Last week, Joe Biden said democracy's on the ballot. And the truth is, our economic recovery is on the ballot.
True.
Law and order are on the ballot.
In a sense, yes.
But so are things far more fundamental and foundational to our country. In this election, it's Not so much whether America will be more conservative or more liberal, more Republican or more Democrat.
It's whether it will be sane.
The choice in this election is whether America remains America. It's whether we will leave to our children and our grandchildren a country grounded in our highest ideals of freedom, free markets, and the unalienable right to life and liberty, or whether we will leave them a country that's fundamentally transformed into something else. We stand at a crossroads, America.
This is terrible.
President Trump has set our nation on a path of freedom and opportunity. Joe Biden would set America on a path of socialism and decline.
Nothing socialist about Biden.
But we're not going to let it happen.
He's center left.
President Donald Trump believes in America and in the goodness of the American people, the boundless potential of every American to live out their dreams in freedom. And every day, President Trump has been fighting to protect the promise of America. Every day, our president has been fighting to expand the reach of the American dream. And every day, President Donald Trump has been fighting for you. And now it's our turn to fight for him.
Time to wrap.
On this night in the company of heroes, I'm deeply grateful. Deeply grateful for the privilege of serving as Vice President of this great nation and to have the opportunity to serve again.
What would make the speech worse, guys?
I pray to be worthy of it, and I will give that duty all that's in me.
20 more minutes, yeah.
In the year 2020, the American people have had more than our share of challenges. But thankfully, we have a president with the toughness, energy, and resolve to see us through. Now, those traits actually run in our national character. As the invading force learned on approach to this fort in September of 1814, against fierce and sustained bombardment, our young country was defended by heroes, not so different from those who are with us tonight. The enemy was counting on them to quit, but they never did. Fort McHenry held, and when morning came, our flag was still here.
Profound.
My fellow Americans, we're going through a time of testing. But if you look through the fog of these challenging times, you will see our flag is still there today.
How milquetoast.
That star-spangled banner still waves over the land of the free and the home of the brave. From these hallowed grounds, American patriots in generations gone by did their part to defend freedom. Now it's our turn.
Yeah, this guy can't possibly keep it together in a debate against Kamala, right? I mean, she's going to make mincemeat out of him.
Let's fix our eyes on Old Glory and all she represents. Let's fix our eyes on this land of heroes and let their courage inspire.
I think he's going all night.
And let's fix our eyes on the author and perfecter of our faith and our freedom. And never forget that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. That means freedom always wins. My fellow Americans, thank you for the honor of addressing you tonight and the opportunity to run and serve again as your vice president.
Right.
I leave here today inspired And I leave here today more convinced than ever that we will do in our time as Americans have done throughout our long and storied past. We will defend our freedom and our way of life. We will re-elect our president and principled Republican leaders across the land. And with President Donald Trump in the White House for 4 more years, and with God's help, we will make America great again.
Wait, so you didn't do it yet? Oh, okay. I see.
Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
This is what you call red meat, dog whistle, nationalist nonsense. And probably from the standpoint of people already voting Trump, a speech they will like. I mean, let's be honest. This is the type of stuff that plays well with these folks. Dear God. Oh my God, is Trump coming out now? Oh my God, he is. Watch the cringe here. Trump can't stay away. He has to be there he has to be the focus every night. Dear God. Oh my God, he's so orange. Is Trump amber? What's the name of this shade? What's the name of that hue? Bronze? Ochre? It's ochre. Yeah, I like that. Cinnamon? It's not really cinnamon.
Here to perform our national anthem, please welcome country music superstar Trace Atkins.
Oh my God. Trace Atkins is horrible.
Oh, say, can you...
I'm out, guys. Not going to do it. That almost seems like a character voice. So that's going to do it for me. We will see everybody tomorrow. Congratulations. I just can't. I mean, listen to that.
At the twilight.
I just can't do it. Okay. We're 75% of the way through. I'll see everybody tomorrow night.